Marcia Lucas throws some shade at the Star Wars sequels, and Dune has a huge box office over the weekend overseas. That and more this morning on Midnight's Edge of the Morning. Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the show. It's Monday. It's time to get the week started once again. It's almost Halloween. I know that much.
I haven't even thought about it. The days are all the same, aren't they?
Yeah, they kind of are. And welcome, everybody. We got Andre here, of course. Michael from Retro Blasting is running a little late. Hopefully, he'll be by before too long. As well as Script Doctor should be along in a little bit as well. But in the meantime, we'll say hello to you guys in the chat, and we'll get started here. So welcome, everybody.
I saw that we had Sporking News podcast here. So hey, greetings, Sporking.
Hey, Scotty, and congratulations. He just had a baby.
Oh, congratulations.
Well, his wife did, not him.
But. Yeah, well, it takes two to tango, doesn't it? So
you
yeah,
be clear this day and age, though.
Yeah, but in any way, just congratulations and best of wishes to the entire family.
And he says thank you, and you're welcome. We also have Stephanie hanging out here. Stephanie Janicek, of course. Looks like we got Aluvria Makara, Fractal Jack's here, just another red shirt's here, Brightest Days here. Natasha's hanging out with a wrench. How you doing? We got Grand Wazoo 42, Mr. Evil's here, Mr. Dragon's here. We also have Cosmic Squirrel, Rick Lucy. How you doing? Eric Runge Madsen, or as you say, Rung, or whatever it is.
Erik Runge Madsen. Try to say it. Runge. Yeah, that was good. Yeah. That was good.
That's
and also, since it's Danish, and Danish, like, Erik, you're going to forgive me for this. We say in the rest of the Scandinavian countries that the Danes, they kind of sound like they talk Norwegian, but with a potato in their mouth. So that, like, the Runge, that was pretty perfect, probably. You may even have someone that said it better than me.
I don't know about that. But we also have Michael MacLeod. We have Darth Scipio hanging in there. We got Fractal Jack. I think I said Why do I always say Fractal Jack more than once? I don't know.
Well, because it's fractals. That's why.
It's fractured all over the place. We got Rhetorical Thrill here, and we got Six here. Good morning, Six. How you doing? Swinging a wrench around. Morgan King is here. Rob Altus is here. Culture's in the chat, too. I sent you a link, Culture, if you're around, as well as the SEM guy. Double back again, and so many more. Thank you for being here this morning. We appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. Because like a whole lot of nothing happened. There's nothing to talk about.
No, that's never stopped us so far.
I'm kidding. News blew up last night pretty crazily about this excerpt, and we're going to get into that. And also some people tried telling me that Dune wasn't going to do well in the box office, something like that. I don't know, but they were wrong and I was right. So there.
I believe we have a meme for that.
We do.
I fucking knew it. Oh,
even better than I expected, actually. So we're going to get into that as well. And yes, that's right, Tara and Shula. Marcia. Yes. We're going to talk about that and so much more. But before we do, I think we had a couple super chats, Andre.
Yes, we do. And I'm still coughing. Sorry about that. So I'll try to mute as much as I can, but sometimes I know they don't have sufficient warning. So I'm just going to have to bear through it.
Lord Trinan wants to know where that meme is from. Well, that meme is from one of the greatest films of all time. That is from Quentin Tarantino's Hateful Eight.
And it also features one of the greatest actors of all time.
Walton
the amazing
Goggins
Walton Goggins.
Of The Next Karate Kid.
Yeah. He was like the best part of that movie and is barely in it.
For the most part, yes.
Yeah. Stephen Otten says, "Hail, Andre, Tom, Script, and Retro Blasting.
Good morning.
When I get here, wrenches and chat. Please tell me I didn't pick the wrong week to quit caffeine."
Maybe.
Well, I don't know. The week is still young, but for anyone cutting out any kind of substance, whether it be caffeine or something stronger, good on you. It's never a bad time for it.
No, I thought I've heard as long as you don't have a heart condition, caffeine ain't really that unhealthy for you. Caffeine's all right.
Well, that depends a little bit on the amounts that you take.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do a huge amount, you're going to give yourself a fucking heart attack or something.
Yeah. And we have a new member, sorry about that, in Space Monk. So welcome and congratulations. And to those wondering, there's more Norse stories on the way. You would have had them already, but as you can freaking well hear, I'm not at my best place to do narration right now. And to those wondering, no, it's not the coof. This is just a regular thing that happens when you have kids in kindergarten. Sometimes they come home at autumn and fall time with regular cold and flu viruses, and that's what this is. So it's not the coof. So sorry to disappoint to anyone who might have hoped that. And I know there's a couple. Then we have the man of the hour joining us. Welcome, Sporking News Podcast. And
Daddy.
Gentlemen. Yes. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Yeah, I am. Someone said it in the chat. I'm like a birthing. What did it call it? Like a birthing partner, I guess now. I know that's what they call it. Birthing.
So
partner.
That's the new term for it.
Yeah, something like that. I call it good old dad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say too. I liked it better when they called it dad.
Yes, I think that works for me. I'm kind of old school. I guess being around 45 now, I'm considered old school.
There you go. Well, congratulations on the new
show.
Yes.
So happy for you all, and I hope everything is fine with everyone. Like, is this your first or?
This is our third.
Before?
This is our
it's
third.
Your third, yeah. So you have a couple from before.
Yes. First boy, first and last. So
there
very happy.
Yeah.
Well, and also joining us, we have two new people. When it rains, it pours. We have Culture Casino, who is one of our fifth Beatles, of course. And joining us this morning is our guest, Mr. Michael from Retro Blasting. How you doing?
My apologies to the audience and everybody here. I'm so glad I have a track record of being on time for this show, because I was up till 2 a.m. Dealing with all kinds of stuff that happened from my last video drop. No need to go into that. But anyway, it was a long evening, and I clearly became befuddled. And then when I woke up this morning, I just glitched out. So my sincere apologies to everybody in the chat and here on the panel. I'm here. I'm ready to go. Let's do this show. I love being on Midnight's Edge.
No worries, Michael.
No worries. We love having you. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
As I said to you just a few minutes ago, like if we need to reschedule, we can. But you're here, so that's all that matters. And we're glad to have you. So as long as you've got the time. We've got the beer.
I have the time, sir. I just forgot what my schedule was, but
no worries, man. I know you've been dealing with a lot of crap, and I know how that is. So
no problem. I was just listening. Congratulations, I believe, are in order for the new addition to a family. So that's
Thank
great.
you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, our buddy Scott over here has just had his first boy.
Yes.
Awesome.
3
awesome.
children.
Yes.
Well done.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I don't know if you've ever met Culture either, but we have Culture Casino and Sporking joining us this morning as well. I think you have before.
Yeah, we've hung out.
Yeah, we've met before. Yeah, I think we talked on Andre's celebration stream or birthday stream. Yep,
that would make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds about right. I believe that would be the place.
Yep. So yeah, it's great to finally do a live stream with you as well, sir.
So you've been a little distracted. You're going to love the news. There's not a ton of news to get into, so luckily for you. And the other part is both are pretty self-explanatory, so you don't have to worry about that either. But with that, we were just covering some of our super chats and our new members.
Yeah, and we were welcome Carries, who also became a YouTube member. So that's absolutely brilliant. And yeah, as soon as my voice recovers, there's going to be some new making of scenes in Norse mythology, which is long overdue. So yeah, it's coming very, very soon. And we have a couple of more super chats, but let's roll on with the show before we get into those. Apart from one that I can get up on screen here right now, who says Joe Pat 87 says the Emmys can do better. That was the initial thumbnail. Yeah, that was the initial thumbnail when I didn't know what the hell we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, first thing I said to Andre is like,
the case.
Emmys, ain't nobody got no time for that shits.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
Nobody's got time to watch the M&E's
and then we changed the thumbnail. But if you go onto Twitter, but here's like the thing: if you when you Twitter only remembers the initial thumbnail. Doesn't matter how many times you updated it. So anyone wants to see the initial, head on over to Midnight's Edge on Twitter, and there you still have it recorded for history.
See, Andre was doing this thing last night called sleeping.
Yeah,
when the news was happening. But
because you see, the planet invented this thing called time zones.
I know,
and I'm in a different one from most of you in the US.
We just need a world clock.
That's fascinating. I've never heard of these time zones. Tell me more.
You'd be surprised at how many people haven't. I mean, I've been called in the middle of the night so many times from someone in the US. So, yeah.
But yeah, the big news that happened last night leaked out. Well, I wouldn't call it leaked out, but people happened to discover this passage from a book from the late author J.W. Rinsler. We're going to get into that. There's a little bit of an interview, a rare interview with Marcia Lucas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Before we get into what was said, let's put some establish some context.
Yes.
Who is Marcia Lucas?
Marcia Lucas,
despite her trying to be the attempt at having her written out of history, what did she actually do? What can she be credited for?
Well, Marcia Lucas is pretty much, up until recently, had edited more movies for Lucasfilm than anybody, and of course, most famously was probably the ex-wife, mostly well known for as being the ex-wife of George Lucas. But at one time, she was a very prolific editor, and she happened to edit Star Wars, and she ghost edited Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi as well. And I believe she also worked on Raiders of the Lost Ark, if I'm not mistaken, a little bit. But of course, she edited films like American Graffiti, and I believe she worked on Taxi Driver and a couple other films like that. So yeah, she has a very prolific editing career. But as soon as her marriage ended with George, as did her career.
But a lot of indie films we're saying here, nothing major.
Nothing major.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, she is most responsible, of course, for basically fixing Star Wars in the edit. Now, Michael, I'm sure you're aware of this whole story.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say I was trying to get you to cover for me while I belch some RC Cola.
No, I can do that.
No, it's fine.
There you go.
My understanding from the stories that I've heard and read and articles, because Tom, as you know, when you're a lifelong Star Wars fan at our level, you've read so many magazine articles and website articles over the years that they all start to come together. And it's hard sometimes to remember what you read where. But when the Behind the Magic CD-ROM came out, they released as part of that CD-ROM the deleted scenes from Star Wars. And one of those deleted scenes, which was very interesting, happened to be, yes, Will, that's exactly right.
Got some love for RC Cola. I like RC Cola too.
One of the deleted scenes wasn't really a deleted scene. It was a longer black and white work print version of the Cantina sequence.
Which is actually on the Blu-ray now, I believe.
Yes, it is on the Blu-ray now. Thank God it's now in high definition and on the Blu-ray. But it was fascinating to watch because it was the first real evidence of the stories that we'd heard that the first round of editing on Star Wars was done in a very journeyman kind of way, a very, layman, not to denigrate the individuals that worked on it, but it was done in a very traditional, staid, kind of almost documentarian kind of fashion. And we'd always heard these stories. And then we'd heard that Marcia Lucas saved the movie in editing when they brought it back to the States, and they did triage on it, and Marcia Lucas started cutting everything differently and working with her husband to make it faster and give it more visual interest and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the bigger thing would have been the ending bit, of course, is what she worked on that changed the entire narrative of the third act.
Can you say, Tom, that this was one of those movies that is legendary for being saved in the editing, completely saved in the editing? It's probably one of the most iconic movies of all time that happened to.
Probably. I mean, it's probably safe to say that much because
I'd take it one step further. I would say that this movie wrote the book on being saved in editing.
Yeah,
way of putting it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because as I was saying, like the original Death Star scene had no real weight to it, and it was just the rebels going out, blowing up the Death Star, and Marcia through editing, because at no point during the entire sequence does any of the actors on screen actually talk about the Death Star closing in on the rebel base. It's all done in voiceovers and visuals on the screen. And that's all to Marcia's credit. She's the one who put that together and added that tension in that last part of that scene, because she said flat out, if the crowd doesn't cheer when Han Solo comes in, then we've lost them. And there's nothing here for you to cheer about. Like,
no
basically,
stakes.
You've got a bunch of teenagers going out for no good reason and blowing up a huge piece of equipment. Basically, is what you got.
So specifically, what did she add into that sequence, Tom?
Well, she added the whole
whole thing with the countdown to the Death Star actually getting in range of the rebel base.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah,
so
that was not even part of the script.
Yeah.
So when it was just them going out blasting the Death Star, and she's like, "Yeah, it's kind of anticlimactic." So it's like she re-edited that whole last bit. Her and I think it was Richard Chew, and I can't remember the other editor's name, but yeah, they redid it because the original British editor, as you were saying, Michael, was the term used was he edited it in a very leisurely way.
Yes. The cantina scene is very like of the 70s as far as filmmaking is concerned, with those, it's almost like when you watch The Conversation or something like that, and it's these long, lingering shots, and a lot of people milling around, and it's trying to really over establish that atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. And again, I saw in the chat, just now, that people were crediting Richard Chew, and we weren't trying to take anything away. It's always a team effort. It's always a village, but Marcia Lucas was in that equation. That was where her role was. And then one of the other, I don't know if this is specifically Marcia or Richard Chew, but it's a perfect example of how they re-edited this for pacing and interest. If you watch the Star Wars Revisited fan edit by Adiwan, you will see that he revealed in his edit, through the edit of resequencing the Obi-Wan Luke and Obi-Wan's hut scene, that Marcia and all of them, I don't know if Marcia was literally there, but Richard Chew and all those guys, along with Marcia with the same philosophy, they cut that whole scene up from the way it plays in the script and shuffled all the different dialogue bits around. And so in doing that, you get the continuity error of C-3PO turning on, turning off, turning on, turning off. And it plays very differently. But if you watch the Adiwan Revisited version, you can see that scene re-edited in its actual sequence. And I actually, admittedly, like it as it played out in the script a little better, because the motivations make more sense in the conversation. It flows more logically. But it's a great example of showing how what mentality they went at a lot of those changes with back in 77 to try and make this, a different kind of film. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with the way they cut that scene for the theatrical version. Obviously, Star Wars is a perfect movie, but it's a way to show and illustrate how they did that. Rather than start with a natural flow of conversation, they start with, "No, my father didn't fight in the wars. He was a navigator on a spice freighter." It's fascinating to watch those two versions of the scene back to back, because they didn't actually cut any dialogue out. They literally just shuffled the deck of cards. Very fascinating.
Yeah, and I think that's actually on YouTube. You can actually watch the sequences back to back, because I've seen that, but I have not seen the actual full cut.
Yeah,
but I've seen what you're talking about. So yeah, like there's plenty of reference material out there. But yeah, there was this book that was recently released, I should say, about Howard Kazadjian, if I'm saying the name right. And J.W. Rinsler, who sadly just recently passed away, was the author, and the foreword was actually by Marcia as well. And Marcia is not somebody who generally speaks out. After her divorce from George, she kind of was really reclusive, and I don't know if that was by choice or, if she had some kind of gag order on her by George, because I mean, we could get into a whole lot of stuff about the relationship between the two. And I only think it's relevant because she has never really come out too much in defense of George. And for her to come out and say what she has said now is kind of, I think it's a big deal. And I mean, granted, she's kind of more so speaking out in defense of her children, should I say, I guess more so, because yeah, she's a big part of the original Star Wars trilogy.
Right.
She was there from the beginning. I mean, the whole trilogy kind of, in a weird way, is kind of a chronicling of the marriage and the fall of the marriage. And I've even pointed this out, that I feel like a lot of what George went through during that period, he injected into the prequels. Like, there's a lot of it there, I feel like, because he built Lucasfilm for her, right? And he did this whole entire thing for her, and so they could have a family. And in the end, all it did is come between him and her. Kind of like how, you know, in the prequels, that's the whole story of, you know, Anakin's entire goal is to save Padme. And in the end, everything he does is basically what brings on her death, right? Like, that's kind of, you know, is kind of, if you put that marriage part in there as opposed to the actual physical death, you know, that's kind of the same story. And you kind of see, because George built this empire around her, and then she's gone. You know, like that was kind of what it was. It's kind of a sad story in a way, but like that's kind of the overview of what we've gotten. And again, we can go back and forth. She was one of those people that was never afraid to tell George what she felt. You know, she's been quoted many times calling him a dead fish.
Right. Yeah. It's been pretty brutal at times. Yeah.
Yeah. She's been pretty brutal with him. So for her to speak out like this, I think says a lot. So, but I think we got enough people here now. So I'm actually going to read the quote. And this is from Marcia, and this is from that book. She says, "I like Kathleen. I always liked her," says Marcia Lucas. "She was full of beans. She was really smart and really bright, really wonderful woman. And I liked her husband, Frank. I liked them a lot. Now that she's running Lucasfilm and making movies, it seems to me that Kathy Kennedy and J.J. Abrams don't have a clue about Star Wars. They don't get it. And J.J. Abrams is writing these stories. When I saw that movie where they killed Han Solo, I was furious. I was furious when they killed Han Solo. Absolutely, positively. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I thought, you don't get the Jedi's story. You don't get the magic of Star Wars. You're getting rid of Han Solo. And then at the end of this last one, The Last Jedi, because this is when obviously this interview took place, they have Luke disintegrate. They killed Han Solo. They killed Luke Skywalker. And they don't have Princess Leia anymore. And they're spitting out movies every year. And they think it's important to appeal to a woman's audience. So now their main character is female, who's supposed to have Jedi powers, but we don't know how she got Jedi powers or who she is. It sucks. The storylines are terrible. Just terrible. Awful. You can quote me. J.J. Abrams, Kathy Kennedy, talk to me.
Wow.
She is
savage.
A hero. She's a hero.
Wow.
That just, you know, it goes to show you too. She waited a little while. She waited until after The Last Jedi. And she realized that these people are just destroying, like you said, Tom, the franchise that's like her children. And no matter her relationship with George, you know, you would think probably isn't the best. They might be on some terms, but it's probably not the best. The defense of the idea of Star Wars, the idea of Return of the Jedi, how they are the hope of a galaxy. They never understood this when Disney took over. What they understood was we want to take this and make it a social issue, make it a message for the Force is female, and change everything about it and forget. We don't need those 40-something-year-old men that are not even men, just people that would bring their children and their children's children into it. We want that new hip people. She understands that they did the wrong thing and they've been backpedaling ever since. She is savage. That is awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, that's an interesting, you know, quote to pull out. And of course, you know, I saw this happening last night and it was like, this is going to be news for a while because it's a lady going after another lady, and that's a no-no. And if anybody tries to accuse Marcia of not being a feminist, they're going to be in for a real fight.
Right.
So it's and of course, we'd heard the stories about her and essentially saving the first film, making it so that, my childhood memories, it's 6 and 7 years old, were created. My very first cinematic memory was that. Right. I'd seen other films, obviously, in the theaters as a young child, but that was my first major cinematic memory. It's the one that sticks with me. And so I'm grateful to her for help making one of the best films ever. But I'm even more grateful for her to say what she said whenever this excerpt was pulled out. This is a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
The actual interview was conducted a couple of years ago, but I believe this book is pretty recent.
Wow.
Let me look here.
Yeah, I'm shocked it hasn't come out earlier. That was right after The Last Jedi
came out.
Wow.
September 14th, 2021. So I'm assuming this is one of JW's last books, if not his last. So yeah, this just came out this last week here. But there's some more quotes from the book about a few things, including the prequels, which she talks about too. She says, you have a princess who looked like she was 20 years old. There were things I didn't like about the casting and things I didn't like about the story and things I didn't like. It was a lot of eye candy CG. So she's not even necessarily nice to George in this thing either. She goes, I was impressed that the prequels had their own identity. Or no, this is Mark Hamill saying that. Sorry.
Oh,
okay. So then, so I'm not sure who all these quotes are coming from, but yeah, there's a lot of talk about episode 1. And she has a quote here about episode 1. I'm trying to find. Okay, George is in his heart and soul a good guy and a talented filmmaker, Marcia says. I wish he would have kept directing other kinds of movies. But when I went to see episode 1, I had a friend who worked at ILM who took me as a guest to a preview. I remember going to the parking lot, sitting in the car and crying. I cried because I didn't think it was very good. And I thought he had such a rich vein to mine, a rich palette to tell stories with. He had all those characters, and I thought it was weird that the story was about this little boy who looked like he was 6 years old. But then later on, he was supposed to get this reunion. I thought it would be... Oh, okay. These are out of order. Sorry. Hang on. Shoot.
Well, the problem is that she understands that during the original trilogy, there were people willing to say no to George. And in the prequels, everyone said yes.
Yeah, there's something else. I'm trying to find the quote here. But like she basically says that. She says there, somewhere along the lines like, yeah. So, but again, the main quote was the Star Wars sequel business. So Michael, what's your reaction to this quote about how she feels about the new films? Because this sounds a lot like you feel. We all.
Yeah, I always respect people who aren't sugarcoating things that they were directly involved with. And Marcia Lucas, in many ways, like the late Gary Kurtz, who was also a hero of mine in the retroactive history of Star Wars. Marcia Lucas and Gary Kurtz both are they are bulwarks against revisionist history of the Star Wars production mythology. In the 90s, we were sold this idea that George Lucas had always had the scripts pre-planned and everything was, engineered in advance. And this is the way the plan has always been, as the prequels were unfolding in a very slipshod, uneven kind of way. And, any of us who've been paying attention through the 80s and into the 90s who were like you and I, Tom, we knew that couldn't be right because we knew about the different script drafts and the big revisions and all that kind of stuff. So when somebody like Marcia Lucas, who has disappeared off the scene, much like Gary Kurtz did for about 20 years, and then resurfaced around the time Attack of the Clones came out, being interviewed by IGN and Film Threat, they give me hope that the real history can't get buried, that what's really happening to the franchise right now won't be buried. And like you guys just pointed out, it's going to be very difficult to just dismiss her and label her as some sort of political bomb thrower or ideological troublemaker. That's not what she is, nor is it what she represents in the fabric of Star Wars history. You can't say that about George Lucas's former wife and editor of the original trilogy. You can't.
They will try, though. They will try.
Oh, they will try. They absolutely will. But she is. I think she rises above that with it's. I think it's going to be a lot harder to convince even people who've been on the attack with other Star Wars personalities in the last few years. I think you're going to see a fracture there. I think you're going to see a lot of people who are going to be torn about whether or not they can break ranks with Marcia Lucas, even though they're loyal to the owner of the IP. It's going to be a test of loyalty. George Lucas and all that. I remember all the fallout when they revealed that George Lucas had a cut of Rise of Skywalker and they were going to bring him back in, and there were rumors that they did, and people were saying, well, why didn't they use George's original drafts for the sequels and all that kind of stuff? So there was no alignment there on the fan base. Even the pro Disney fan base wasn't fully in lockstep about that. A lot of them felt like, yeah, well, I think I would have rather seen George's stuff, Marcia Lucas, that's going to be an interesting dynamic with fan reaction. I will enjoy the fireworks. I'm going to maybe get some real popcorn going for that one.
There you go.
I killed the room, didn't I?
No, not at all.
I'm just waiting for Andre to get his response to this because, this is a pretty damning quote from a very important person, I would say.
Right.
And
my question, Tom.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but my question is, will they come at her as the jaded ex-wife, or because they'll try to find a way, because and the truth is she just loves this IP so much. I mean, it's part of her heart and soul. Will they come at her like that? Because they have to, they're not going to let this go without a response of some sort. Not maybe Disney or Lucasfilm directly, but those, other channels that kind of defend them for every single thing they do.
Yeah, but what defense will they have to go after her? I mean, that's the thing. Like Marcia, even in her own, even though she was critical of the prequels, she was obviously much, much, much more critical of the Disney sequels. And she's basically calling out J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy. Like, she's like, I want to have some words with y'all. We got to talk, she ain't afraid. Like, this is the first time where she's really kind of come out and been like, come at me, y'all. Like, I ain't hiding no more. Maybe the NDAs are up, because I know, here's the thing, and I'm not trying to paint George as some tyrant, but as far as I know, she amicably walked away from all this shit during the divorce. Like, I know she signed over a bunch of her rights for certain things, and there's always been that there
was that working rumor for a while that the reason he did the special editions was to try and cut her out of royalties for the original trilogy or something. Like, ooh,
cold-blooded.
Which
I don't know if that's true, but was that true?
Could be some accuracy to that, but I've also heard that she got bought out of her rights years ago.
Oh,
so
weird.
I don't know. And that's the thing, is she is persona non grata. Like, she's not supposed to be brought anywhere near Lucasfilm. Like, she even said there in that quote, she had a friend at ILM who took her to a fucking screening of Star Wars Episode 1, for Pete's sake.
Right.
So, she couldn't even be bothered to ask George to get a ticket to see that, or a pass to see that. So it clearly shows how close they are after all that. I don't know how much they've talked since then, clearly. I know the marriage didn't end that well. Depending on who you believe, she either cheated on him or didn't. But that doesn't really matter when it comes to this, because, again, like I said, she's coming out in defense of her children here, I feel like. Because even though she doesn't feel like she was the one who was the person behind it, because there was the other quote here, about, the George's films, he's the one who came up with all the characters. I'm trying to find this here.
Well, while you find that, it's one thing that this does do. It defends channels like, Midnight's Edge and people like yourself and Andre and Retro Blasting and all the people that have been defending, our voices, the mass fans that have been, being attacked for just disliking movies because we're this ist or ism, because we didn't understand, the direction Disney wanted to go with it. We didn't agree with it. She is actually, justifying everything we have said in the past about these movies. In just a short quote, she says everything we've been saying. And you're right, they can't attack her. These are her babies. And I hate to say it, she's a woman, in film that has done a great deal for the media itself in editing and just movies in general. But she has, without even trying, came out and defended all of us. And this is a win for everybody. And I look at it that way because of, Disney and their employees attacking us, attacking our families, attacking friends, just for disagreeing with the idea of Disney's, Star Wars and the direction they took it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's the ultimate validation in a sense. Well, not the ultimate, but it's pretty close to it. And it only goes to show that those that wanted to be on the right side of history are going to end up on the dead wrong side of it because they took things too far.
Yeah. You know what I love the most about her quote is, Andre, I didn't mean to step on you if you had more to say.
No, by all means. No, carry on.
Okay. What I love the most about her quote, as my brain has chewed on it for the past 10 minutes, is the fact that she did something just now with this quote that nobody else has really done. I mean, meaning in the professional space. In the social media space, at the consumer level, we've all been doing it. But she's the first person to really step up and go, you know what? The writing is bad. J.J. Abrams is not a Hollywood darling. He is inept. This is not good filmmaking. This is, this is like, when Scorsese, right or wrong, Scorsese went out and slammed all the Marvel films, except in this case with Scorsese, he was kind of walking out into a tone deaf situation where people actually like a lot of the Marvel films, and he kind of, got some backlash for that. But in Marcia's case, she's actually walking into a space where a significant proportion of the audience is unhappy, not just with the stunt casting and not just with the Disney draconian rule over this stuff and everything like that. She's actually not happy with the plotting, the quality of the writing, and the directors and filmmakers that they've hired. And she's not worshiping at their altar. She doesn't see J.J. Abrams as this visionary wunderkind. Like she actually is saying, he ain't that great, everybody.
Right.
He's not. Yeah.
It's like when we would say, they would say to us, we hate women, or they would say to us, oh, you just don't like it because it's not what you're used to, and this is a new vision. And now we have somebody who was there from the beginning, a woman, defending everything we've said. So you put it perfectly, Retro Blasting. It defends the idea where we were just saying, look, these movies aren't good. The writing isn't good. Some of the special effects were good. The castings wasn't very good. And the direction was terrible. And we were attacked for different reasons that she will not get attacked for.
I got the rest of the quote here because I was reading it all fucked up. I apologize, guys. Thanks, Six, for helping me out with this. But okay, here's the whole entire last part of that quote. Not fucked up. George is in his heart and soul a good guy and a talented filmmaker. I wish he would have kept directing, but when I seen episode 1, I had a friend who worked at ILM who took me as a guest to a preview. I remember going into the parking lot, sitting in my car and crying. I cried because I didn't think it was very good, and I thought he had such a rich vein to mine, a rich palette to tell stories. He had all those characters, and I thought it was weird to tell a story about a little boy who looked like he was 6 years old, but later on he was supposed to get this reunion. I thought it would be fun, and I enjoyed it. Marcia has heard many times that George was the head and she was the heart of Star Wars, but she says that's not accurate. I wouldn't think so. I definitely made scenes work. I made the end battle work. I definitely had a lot to do with making it work, but I wasn't the writer and I wasn't the director. I didn't come up with the creative names, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker. All those names are classics. George came up with all of it using his amazing imagination. So she does give him a lot of credit here too, even though she does kind of shit on him a little bit for the prequels. But again, I think the more damning thing is what she says about J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy, and she doesn't even bothered to mention Rian Johnson by fucking name, right? Like she.
Well, I think that's actually why she can get away with trashing George Lucas a little bit, because she trashes everyone else so much more that's where the attention is going to be, and obviously it's the truth, and it's playing right into underrated and suppressed fan sentiment.
Absolutely.
I'm just thrilled that she's resurfaced in such a strong way. She was like, I always forget the name of that guy that like stole the suitcase of money on the airplane and parachuted out the back. Yeah. She was like the DB Cooper of Star Wars, except she didn't rob anybody. She just disappeared. And to see her resurface, and not just resurface in a kind of, cameo kind of, oh, look, that's an interesting novelty that, look at her now, like those clickbait ads where it's like, this is Marcia Lucas in 1977. You won't believe what she looks like now. Like, no, this is like, she's back and she's saying substantive things. And I think that's the most thrilling part of it. And again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. I love the fact that she slammed J.J. Abrams in the writing. She has the gumption to do that. And, that's going to carry miles.
She doesn't need anything from them, correct? That's mostly what it is. Everyone kisses at the altar of JJ and Kennedy because they don't want to be, shut out of Hollywood. She's done her thing. She is a legend, like you guys have been saying, of editing, and granted after George, in her split, she hasn't done much after that, but she's been part of some of the biggest movies of the 20th century, so you can't knock her for how she feels about people's quality of their directing, their writing. She has, an inside look at it, and it's powerful that she came out just blasting everyone. Love it.
Well, not just that. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just want to say real quick, Scott, just to follow up on what you said right there.
Yes.
You're right. She has worked on some of the greatest movies of all time. And you know who else has done that? Kathleen Kennedy.
Right.
The difference is that Kathleen Kennedy, she got the coffee for the people who actually got the job, and she made phone calls to have New York Bridge shut down for filming, whereas Marcia actually worked on the creative matters that are there on screen and made the movie better, which makes her more important than Kathleen Kennedy.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, and bringing up Kathy, that's the best part, is look at the shade she throws at her. Right? She talks about her like she's basically a child. She's like, she was a really wonderful woman, but she's like, it was real cute how I used to work on Steven's movies and shit. Who the fuck do you think you are to come in and take over my ex-husband's fucking legacy? Is basically what I got from that fucking comment.
Well, Tom, do you think that also kind of leads to the idea when George handed it off to her, there might have been an unspoken or spoken behind the doors thing between Kennedy and Lucas that, I'm handing it off to you, because I want you to keep going in this direction and I know you will. And she took it in her direction completely. And maybe that's some of the reason some of the shades also being thrown at her, because she isn't a creative. She's a coffee getter and she tried to become a creative.
Observation. And I mean, I don't think she personally has talked to George in probably, I don't know how many years outside of probably about their kids. And since their kids are adults now, they probably don't talk all that much at all. Clearly, I feel like she is not happy about this. I do feel like, she is like, I do get a lot of that. Who the fuck do you think you are vibe from this comment, right? Like you destroyed the legacy of Star Wars now is basically what I think she's saying to Kathleen Kennedy. It's like, you fucked this up. So, but I know you got to get going here, Scott.
Yeah, sorry.
I just duties, I'm sure.
I hear Mama waking up upstairs, and we got to take the baby to his first doctor's appointment. Aww. But I have to say, Tom, as always, thank you. You're always so supportive of my channel. Retro Blasting, it's an honor. I've been subscribed for a while now, so it's awesome to be on here. And definitely, dude. Seriously, honor. Andre, though, I think this is actually the first live stream I've been on with you. I always miss you when you're on like a Rogue or one of our other ones. So it is Midnight's Edge.
Time zones, man. Time zones.
It truly is. But Midnight's Edge has been one of the biggest inspirations for my channel, even though my channel doesn't hold a candle to yours. But I appreciate you having me on, and it's an honor to be able to, stream with you guys.
Oh, thank you. Let's don't be a stranger. Let's do it again.
Oh, I definitely will. Thank you guys. Tom, love you. Culture, as always.
You too,
my
buddy.
partner in crime. Love you guys.
Again.
See you, man.
Bye.
And then there were 4.
The new dad duty, man. I'm telling you.
And I'm just gonna take the opportunity to welcome Rudy as a new member, because I've had my screen stuck on that, so I could get it up. So welcome. Yeah, as I said before, more exclusive bonus content coming as soon as my voice freaking clears up.
And so I get shit done. I got to gather up thumbnails and stuff. It's not easy. But yeah, so this is a very interesting quote. I know there was some more stuff that she had said too, but yeah, this is the most I've heard her say in a long time. So it's very interesting. And I think this is going to resonate for a while here. I don't think Disney's going to be able to get away from this. As Scott pointed out before, this is not just a woman saying this. This is Marcia Lucas. She's basically like the godmother of Star Wars, right? Like, even if you can't consider her the mother by her quotes here, she's like, no, it's all George's. It's all George's. It's like, yeah, I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit, lady. I really don't, because nobody understood Star Wars but George. And that was one thing I know that was a big deal. And she kind of got it, or at least got it enough to where she fixed it in the end. Because I don't think the movie would have been I just don't think it would have been as good without her. I don't know if anybody disagrees with me, but yeah.
I know someone who doesn't. Beautiful Bliss says, remember, women fight with words, then act on those words. So don't rule out that there were words said between those women.
I don't think they have talked. That's the thing. She's calling her out. She's like, come talk to me, Kathy. Like, I mean... that's going
to make a difference now. I have a question though, because when were these comments said? I know that we only learned about them now, but this book, is this something that was released recently, or has it been out for a while?
No, you must have missed it when you were away. It just got released last week.
Okay, yeah.
I believe this is one of J.W. Rinsler's last books, if not his last book to be released. Because sadly, like I said, he passed away not too long ago here. And yeah, there was an interview that just come out for the 40th anniversary of Star Wars, which probably would have been about the same time that this interview was conducted, as Six pointed out, where she is giving, glowing praise to George. I mean, clearly there's been enough time to where, the wounds have probably healed up a little bit and stuff like that. And I doubt they've talked to each other personally, but yeah, just the fact that she had just the fact that she said this is amazing to me. Yeah, Six says it was from 4 years ago, so yeah, it'd be around the same time, roughly. So, gosh, it's been close to that already. Jeez.
Also, before we move on, someone I can't bring up on screen, but I can bring up the comment, is Karen Prime, who did not appreciate not being welcomed yet as a new member. So let's do that. Welcome back, Karen Prime, as a member to the channel. So yeah, that's awesome. And we have a couple of more.
And this is a question that has come up a couple times in the chat, so I'm going to address it right now. Dr. Long Dongler asks, does this play into Chapek's corner? It does, but I don't.
Of course. I don't think that he had nothing to do with it, though, because this was in a book. So he cannot be credited for organizing this. But obviously, it's going to be like oh, yes, fantastic, rubbing his hands.
Yeah, because this interview was conducted, according to what she's saying, between The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, it looks like.
Yeah, so it's been quite a while since this comment was made.
And it does kind of line up with the time of the interview that Six also sent me, where she was just for the 40th anniversary of Star Wars. So
yeah. I mean, a lot of stuff's playing into Chapek's corner right now. When it comes to films and the Star Wars thing and everything else, and now you're seeing and I'm not trying to jump forward in subjects, but if you look back at the winners from the Emmys last night, did you see Disney win anything?
Did Cobra Kai win?
I just noted
that's all I give a shit about.
I didn't see anything. I didn't see Disney winning anything. I mean, I couldn't find it.
Don Cheadle didn't win for his 90-second cameo?
No, and the 25 or so, 24, 25 nominations for WandaVision didn't do anything. I mean, they were substantially left out of all the major awards. Just, I didn't mean to jump forward, but I'm just saying is that because
well, we weren't really going to talk about the Emmys because I saw the headline, and the first thing I said to Andre this morning is nobody gives a shit about the Emmys.
That's true.
Nobody cares.
I only took that thumbnail from like lack of options. I was like, we already did Dune like twice or 3-4 times the last 2 weeks, so I can always change it apart from on Twitter. So yeah.
Well, Dune is big news. We'll get to that, but this is bigger news. This, like I said, this is making the rounds last night. We talked about it last night on Doomcock's show. It's been making the Twitter rounds here the last day or so. The book just dropped on the 14th, so that answers your question there, Andre. Even though
there we go.
So yeah, this is really fresh. This is going to be making some waves, I believe. I mean, she's calling out JJ and Kathleen Kennedy, two of the most powerful people in Hollywood right now.
And at the same time, she is someone in a position to can, because her contributions to the industry and to filmmaking are beyond dispute. At the same time, she's mostly retired now, isn't she? So it's not like they have like any hold of her, of like denying her any future opportunities or anything.
No, as far as I know, the only gag orders she would have would be result of her divorce from George, which are probably long.
Exactly. So she can say whatever she wants, apart from about the details about her marriage with George Lucas. And honestly, that's a personal matter between the two.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah. Like, as far as I usually talk about it, I'll bring up a few choice stories that are out there. I'll bring up, the fact that Lucasfilm was built for her. But other than that, like, no, I don't see why that matters outside of the fact that she was just there. She left the industry after their divorce, and that was her choice, I guess. I mean, some will say that George did kind of have her blacklisted. There's some proof to that. But again, I'm sure if she wanted to continue in the industry, she has enough credentials she could have.
And I'm sure that she also was sufficiently well taken care of that she didn't have to, which again puts her in a position where she can do pretty much whatever she wants now, apart from saying things about George, which she may not even want to, because that's strictly their own personal business, and it may not leave her in too good a light either. So yeah. But shifting everything over to
but basically the funny thing about this, I can see the ladies talking about this tonight. They're going to be like, yeah, the only thing that Marcia didn't say was bless her heart at this point, which I don't know if you know that. I'm sure that's kind of a
I've heard it. I know it's like a really
southern term, which is basically go fuck yourself in so many words.
I can totally see that as like one of Mandy's southern terms. That
actually,
that
it's more
a complete
opposite.
opposite.
Lorena likes to use that one a little bit more, but yeah. But let's get into some super chats. Let's see what the people out in the chat have to say.
Yeah, let's do that, and we can begin. Tom, do the ones we can get up on screen first, and I'll get back into the classics.
If I can here, let me see what I can grab. This thing's going by so quick. We're so happy to have almost 1,400 of you guys watching. Please hit that like button. And there are
do smash that
I can bring up, so they're all on you. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, then let's get back into the classic super chats then. The first one today comes from, as soon as here we go, from HyperGyver2, who said for $5, somebody better have the burn ward on standby, because Marcia just roasted Crazy Kathy and Jar Jar. She did indeed. And then said for $4.99, hi gents, hello everyone. Mando Season 2 deserved a win. So disappointed. Season 2, Chapter 16 should have secured the Emmy win. Love, Baby Yoda. And yeah, but that's the Emmys for you, and we'll probably get into that a little bit later on. I don't think there was ever a good shot at them winning anything. But yeah, there you go. And Adam Wofford says for $5, Tom forgot where live button or YouTube moved to under 5 pages and many windows.
Well, it didn't help, but I was sitting here by myself for a little bit. Andre was running late, and it was one of those things.
Yeah.
So, but we made it. We're here.
We made it. We're all here, so it's all good. And Stephen Otten said, "Hail Andre, Tom, Script, and Retro Blasting when they get here. Wrenches and chat. Please tell me I didn't pick the wrong week to quit caffeine." And no, you probably didn't. But,
I think we grabbed that one earlier.
But yeah, we grabbed that one already. And Roman Lakovets sent us a 14 Swedish krona super sticker, so thanks for that. And Big Alchemy says, "Tom, if you got the time, we got the beer."
Yep.
I'm old enough to get that reference. Well,
somebody
done.
does. I was hoping Michael would at least too, because
Michael, did you get that reference?
If you've got the time, we've got the beer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the mists of my mind. I know I've heard that.
That's a Miller beer quote, actually.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Culture's old enough to remember.
Yeah, I knew it was a beer related thing, probably from a commercial. I just couldn't remember the brand.
Time. We got the beer.
That's right.
Miller beer.
Whereas for me, I see instantly that this is some kind of reference or something that I have no clue what is beyond. It's some kind of reference, like the man from Del Monte or whatever stuff. So yeah. I want to pick up a few over the years. And Nerd Cookies says, "Great video. How Star Wars was saved in the edit."
Yes, and that may even be the video that scene you're talking about is in, Michael, that I've seen.
Oh, really?
I know they talk about the ending in that. They may even talk about that scene in particular as well.
Okay, cool.
I know I've seen it somewhere on YouTube where I just seen that particular scene where they talk about how it was edited differently. But yeah, so that could be the same video. But yeah, definitely check out that video. It's a great video. It does a pretty good job of explaining how the whole thing went down.
Yeah, so, I absolutely will.
And then we have a couple we can bring up on screen.
Yeah, the easiest way to find it is just type in how it was saved in the edit Star Wars, and it's usually the first one that pops up, as far as I know. It's got like 9 million views or whatever on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll definitely be able to find it then.
Yeah, it's not hard to find.
And then WG said for $20. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate that. And he says, "Ask not what Disney can do for Star Wars. Ask what Star Wars can do for Disney."
You're not wrong,
Kennedy.
That's pretty.
Yeah. Well, I think I will do it even better. Ask not what Disney can do for Star Wars. Ask what Star Wars can do for me. Yeah. I think that's even more likely.
True.
But yeah. And then Durao On says for €10. I'll try here. "Bonjour à tous. Hi, Retro Blasting. Your KK's Firehouse fun is always next to every video I play that I almost memorized it, and probably 30% of the views is from me. Vive le chat, Erenches."
That's very kind of you, sir. That was a labor of love video for me, and I'm so grateful that it has done so well. And that everybody has plugged into that and they get the message. So thank you.
That's a well-made video, I have to say, too. I was looking forward to seeing it, and it was truly great.
Thank you.
I was even happy to share with Mike that the algorithm was being a little nice to him. One of his older videos popped up on my main page. I'm like, hey, look.
Yeah. The algorithm's doing real well, especially after yesterday. But I don't know how the like to dislike ratio is doing, but the algorithm's doing real well.
Hey, that was before that, Michael. So at least.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So always keep that in mind. No, but Sean, you do some great work over there. You guys do wonderful, wonderful work. Can't say enough. Nobody knows toys like you guys do, and you guys work with some other great toy channels. So I cannot recommend what you do enough. And then Sean Carter sends in $5. Says, "Tom, here's to good friends. Tonight is Kind's special." Yes, he's singing the rest of the song for us. Thank you so much. At least some people get it. I'm not the only old fogey here. Platts says $5. That sounds like a beer brand. What are chances that Lucasfilm touched the sequel era again? I know Visions has a few post Rise of Skywalker stories, but it's not canon.
Well, let's hear what our guests have to say.
Yeah. Michael, do you think they'll go back and touch on the sequels again on any series at all?
Well, the last article I read was a few days ago, and I know that Tom, I told you that I have been largely out of touch with stuff, but every now and then an article does actually grab my attention away from what I was working on up until yesterday. And they were saying that it was a weird theory. They were saying that the Star Wars sequel trilogy is going to get retconned by Disney by doing a series, a trilogy of television shows that begin with The Mandalorian. And I'm like, that's nice poetry, but until we actually see, Disney redefine what those 3 films were and put out another trilogy, I'm going to have a hard time buying into the idea that a series of television shows is going to officially supplant the sequel trilogy. And I say that as somebody that doesn't count the sequel trilogy philosophically, but
right.
Yeah, that's the last I saw on it. I haven't seen any official movement in that regard.
That's kind of what I've heard, but more so not so much that they're going to erase anything, but just that they're just going to ignore it.
Right.
And it seems to be the case for the most part. There has not been much that's touched on any of the sequel trilogy characters. What about you, Culture? I know you may have a little bit more of a
for the next at least year and a half, it looks like the way forward is to stay far away from it. I mean, you're still going to see some of the leaning into some of the elements of the sequel trilogy, but they're really trying to go a different direction. They don't want to get too far down the road into the sequel era because it's not. I mean, they've realized it's not good. Nothing sells that's associated with it, and believe me, retro blasting, my friend would know. The toys they're not appealing, which that indicates they're not capturing the younger audience that are or even the collectors, even to some extent. So
the toy sales, as we know, are notoriously bad for the sequel characters and ephemera. And I mean, it does shock me. Although no, I take that back. It doesn't shock me. The reason I say that is because Disney really, up until they inherited or bought Marvel, Disney had a really bad track record converting their stuff into the action figure market. In the 80s and things like that, there was no robust merchandising flow for their stuff. And like, that's coming from somebody that really would have loved Black Cauldron action figures. Right. I would have really enjoyed that. I was
going to say, outside of Tron, what did they have in the 80s? Nothing.
Well,
nothing.
Yeah. I mean, they were very slow to market things, actually. In fact, I think that recently the most, the most blaring example of that would be Frozen. They didn't capitalize on Frozen, just like they didn't capitalize on Baby Yoda for over a year. Mm-hmm. I mean, the merch came out so much in arrears of the actual sensation, that they're bad at it. They've been bad at it since, who knows how long, maybe.
Yeah. At the height of DuckTales popularity, there were no action figure toys, which is weird. And I learned, I've been on an unrelated note, but related to this, it'll dovetail. I learned while researching for this big Robin Hood retrospective I'm working on for my channel that Robin Hood animated Walt Disney action figures, an entire line with vehicles, play sets, large play sets, everything were made just 10 years ago in Europe, where they had an entire Disney animated action figure line of Sword in the Stone and, Jungle Book and all these other characters that now go for a fortune on the secondhand market. That's how bad Disney is, like, at making action figures and toys. They know how to do plushies. They can do plush animals all day. But as far as everything else, unless it's a doll of Elsa from Frozen or Belle from Beauty and the Beast, they don't know how to effectively market their stuff. So saying that, going into that sequel trilogy, I'm really not surprised that they would say, hey, let's take this character in Last Jedi and make her look like a Ghostbuster that forgot their equipment. Because that's appealing. Just a guy, just a girl in a baggy jumpsuit. Like, you want to look at him and go, you do understand, right, that toys have to have curb appeal. Yep. Like that's why in the Kenner line, when we were kids, we would pick up a character that was literally only in the background and had no lines, but they made it into an action figure because it looked really interesting.
Yeah.
And you could make him or her something in the plot.
IG-88, right?
Yes.
Bosk.
Snaggletooth.
Snaggletooth. Yeah, all these, all these old horror masks that they pulled off the shelf to put into the film.
The George replaced half of in the special edition.
But those were things that resonated with the people that were watching the film because the cantina scene was so important, to the film. So it's just, you're 100% right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, you're right. You didn't interrupt me at all. I was just simply pointing out that, that their lack of instincts to make their characters in their films and properties look interesting. For a while there, Star Wars collectors were just buying them out of a sense of obligation. But by the time it got to Rise of Skywalker, even Hasbro had given up making the characters. And I had also heard, of course, Midnight's Edge covered some of this as well, that J.J. Abrams and his crew were rewriting and refilming so much so fast that by the time the toys came to market, half of them were invalidated and weren't even really part of the movie at all.
I can't remember who had said it, but it was somebody from Hasbro. It was the reason there was because, as you know, Rise of Skywalker was the first Star Wars movie not to have a 3 3/4 inch line attached to it. And the reason for that was not so much the lack of sales as it was, as you just said, JJ and company had changed the movie so many times. Hasbro already had a warehouse full of toys they couldn't send to stores because the characters weren't in the fucking movie.
JJ Abrams is toy aisle poison with everything he does. So, like, for example, Star Trek, right? There was going to be this big thing to bring back Star Trek toys in 2009. And the production design of the film itself was largely so uninteresting that the toys looked so unappealing that when you saw them in the toy aisle, you were just like, and pass.
They looked generic too. The packaging did.
Yeah, the packaging
had that generic Disney packaging on it.
Well, I mean, and to add fuel to that fire, I mean, it was an executive with Gentle Giant that came out and said, because people were like, well, where are these toys? And they're like, well, what are these toys that people are clamming for? They were looking for these specific toys. And he's like, okay, where's the market for this? Because we haven't been able to sell any of these. Right. And of course I'm paraphrasing, but I'm looking for the article right now, but it was.
Are you talking about the one where they're like, well, where's all the this toy and that toy? And
it was.
They're such popular characters. And he's like, are they really that popular? I think was the quote he brought back. To Rey and Finn and all that stuff. And speaking of popular, we have our other fifth Beatle with us today.
Ooh.
Script Doctor has made it to the panel. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I just finished my civic duty.
You know Michael, so yes.
Yeah. How's the you just refilling your hypo sprays now and getting ready for another round?
Pretty much at this point.
Good deal.
Yeah. But Joel Rise asks, and we did cover this before, you must have missed it, Joel, but no, I don't think this is so much Chapek's handiwork at this time. I think it's a very happy accident, though, for him, because it's definitely going to work in his favor as far as keeping Kathleen Kennedy under his thumb a little bit more, if that's the case. I don't know if Culture wants to add anything to that or anybody else, but
like I said, this particular move, it definitely doesn't reek of Chapek, if that's the question.
No, it's just happy accident, I think, more than anything.
I think this book was in the works years before that was even the case. So
and that's what we had brought up before, because this interview was clearly conducted before The Rise of Skywalker came out. And to go back to the toys, because you brought up Baby Yoda as well, and I think that's what happened there was so much is after the kerfuffle they were going through over Rise of Skywalker, they took one look at Baby Yoda and they're like, you're fucking kidding me. We're not going to get Jar Jar again, I think is what they felt like. They're like, there's no way we're going to jump on this thing. So whatever excuse they came up with was bullshit, because as we were told, it's basically a 90-day window from conception to store shelves. And that's exactly what we had and that's exactly what we had basically when Baby Yoda merchandise finally started showing up, was roughly 90 or so days or more after the show had dropped. So I think that was clearly a sense that either the toy companies were not interested. I don't believe in this whole, we were keeping it secret deal, because that is the biggest, dumbest shit in the world. Because as well as I do, Michael, that where do most leaks come from when it comes to these movies?
I mean, a lot of them come from the toys that get announced ahead of time. Yeah. What was the latest one? Was it
Godzilla and
and Dune, the Dune toys?
Yeah, the Dune ones.
They came out early, and there's another one that just Oh gosh, what was the latest one? It wasn't
Spider-Man had a few. Shang-Chi, I think, did too. But
yeah,
Spider-Man was one of the more recent ones because a few of the outfits came out.
That's right. That's right. Spider-Man and Shang-Chi. That's right. Yeah, that must be what I'm thinking of.
Could be. And then they had the figures for the Eternals come out and nobody cared. But no, I don't think this has anything to do with Chapek, but he will definitely probably be happy that it's out there. And then we got Rod Thunderheart saying, "Hail, Andre and Tom." And I'm sure he means the rest of the crew as well. It says, "Wow, George Lucas has a supporter, even if he's not with her anymore. It's nice to see more opposition against Disney." I said, yeah, that does speak volumes.
Well, Marcia's the reason that they're not together anymore. It's not George so much.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
She left on her own volition.
Yeah, and you know, we've talked about that several times. Script, and again, though, for her to speak out though on his behalf and Star Wars behalf, and call basically. Did you read the quote?
I read the quote. I don't think she was really speaking out on George's behalf, but she was just speaking out on the work itself, saying like, this is the legacy that we made, and these two people who, one of which she worked with and liked, completely lost the target. And the other part too is like, I did hear rumor that she said similar things about George losing focus when the prequels came out, because again, she pretty much left the industry around 88, 89 and did something else, and I'm not sure what that was, but I do remember, what was it, maybe 2001, hearing little rumblings that Marcia Lucas was not really pleased with the prequels, and that she basically saying like George lost the sight, so to speak.
Yeah, he needed some guidance. And I don't know if I missed any in between here, Andre, because it jumped on me, but Adam Wolford sends in $10 and says, "Over the holiday weekend, Cartoon Network did all 6 movies and Rogue One, and nothing about Solo or episodes 7, 8, or 9. Also, you got to Amazon the what is that?
I think it's supposed to be EU Star Wars toys.
I was going to say, I think that's supposed to be EU. Yeah. Star Wars toys cost more, but Disney Star Wars is cheap. Well, that's demand, supply and demand. There you go. And as far as the 6 movies, that's weird. I know Cartoon Network is owned by Warner, and I know they had a deal with them, but that was all bought out and paid for. So I have no idea what the deal is there. Mexican Iron Man, how you doing, buddy? Says, "Hail, Midnight's Edge brethren. Michael, your channel is amazing. Question: where are the insider attitudes of Star Wars licenses, or what are the attitudes of Star Wars licensees, and how the heck did Kurtzman get the recent Star Trek deal done?" I don't know if you know much about that, Michael, but
I think he was making a statement about my channel and then directing those questions to you guys at Midnight's Edge about those 2 things. So thank you.
I think he was actually asking you more about that, because Mike is one of our producers, so he could ask us anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. Like he knows, so he's asking you. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. What I know about the Star Wars license is simply that Kenner did let it lapse in the late 80s, and then when Hasbro came back around in the early 90s and found out that Kenner hadn't paid their sweetheart deal, which was of great frustration to Lucas after the toys became so immensely successful. Hasbro had to come back with their hat in their hand after having acquired Kenner and re-up the license for the Star Wars action figures, even though they could have, these aren't the numbers, but they literally could have just paid Lucas like $100 a year to keep it. And then Kenner finally, right before they sold themselves to Hasbro, Kenner was like, "This ain't worth it anymore. Star Wars ain't coming back." And so they just didn't keep the license.
I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was some small minimal amount of Star Wars toys they had to produce every year to keep the license.
Yeah,
somebody in filing fucked up and didn't tell them, "Hey, by the way, we got to produce something Star Wars this year. We're going to lose the license."
Yep, exactly. They didn't do it. So then Hasbro had to pony up and get the license back, and because they wanted to keep it because that was Kenner's first and everything like that. So they've had it since then. There have always been rumors over the last, few years that, Disney wanted to buy Hasbro, and then that didn't go through. And then there were rumors that, maybe Hasbro would give up the license because of the lack of success of the sequel toys. But Hasbro just regroups and keeps making classic trilogy stuff. So yeah, that's the extent I know about the licensing. As far as Kurtzman getting the Star Trek deal, that is all Midnight's Edge knowledge. I have no idea. All I know is that I was really mad when it happened.
Well, basically, from what I've heard, and this is again, from what I heard, one of the big reasons Kurtzman got to stick around he was one of the main people finagling in the Playmates deal. I'm sure you've heard about the recent Star Trek Playmates deal because of their history. And you did one of the great Star Trek toy videos of the past as well, which is one of the ones I referenced many a time over when I had to
thanks.
that stuff on Andre, because like I told him, like, look, you got to check this out. And I told him, like, you know, they didn't have toys for this, they didn't have toys for this, and and yeah, it was your video that I went to for all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, like basically there's this big deal now with Playmates again for Star Trek. So there's a lot of people thinking that that's where the money was infused to continue Kurtzman's destruction of the property. So I don't know if you know anything about that deal or anything about that, but
I only know that there was hope there for a while that he wasn't going to get his deal re-upped and that they were going to reclaim the franchise. And I learned a lot of that through you guys. And then like overnight, it was almost like they just gave up and were like, we're just going to give Kurtzman the thing. And it was like Groundhog Day. It was like, oh yeah, remember when I say remember when it was all rumor, but it was like, remember when they were almost about to fire Kathleen Kennedy, and then suddenly they were like, fine, here's a re-up of your contract. It's like, wow, like it's almost like it's harder to get rid of somebody and find someone else than it is to just keep the lousy person in their office chair. Well,
it comes down to the fact of who's making enough noise that they're going to be a positive impact on the company that could succeed the current, person. And we've got crickets actually at this point for both franchises.
Well, and I think there's a little bit more, there's other motivations behind this as well, because we're starting to learn a little bit more about some movement over at Paramount that's possibly positioning the company for sale. So it sounds like they're moving a lot of their IPs over to CBS or some shit. I don't know all the ins and outs, but I have a feeling Andre will have a video about that at some point here. Because there's definitely a lot going on over there, but I don't know.
Yeah, just have to research it and try to find out exactly what's going on. On the surface, it does look like they're shifting everything from Paramount to CBS, which to me seems like they're going to sell off the Paramount brand, and they're just shifting everything that they want to keep from Paramount over to the CBS unit.
Yep.
Yeah, and then that 4-year contract extension becomes somebody else's problem.
Exactly, and this goes along with... I think a big part of it is kind of like how the Star Wars sequels came to be, as the short version is. Bob and George were talking about the sale of Lucasfilm, and the numbers men put together an offer, and George thought it was too low, but Bob had to remind him, you have nothing in production. There is no upcoming Star Wars things. You have one TV show going, and that's it. So like to make Lucasfilm worth more money, that's why George Lucas signed on all the original actors, put together this package for a sequel trilogy, and that, in the investors' eyes, made the company worth a little bit more. So I think that's a lot of what's going on here. It's not so much that they think that Kurtzman's a great showrunner, so much more as he puts a lot of shit in production, and the more Star Trek shit in production makes Paramount worth more. So that means that maybe Star Trek might be one of the things that they're thinking about parting with. I don't know. I don't know what's all being moved over to CBS, but I got to imagine it's most of their Nickelodeon properties and things of that order. I don't know how much they're worried about Star Trek anymore. The brand may have been damaged. Who knows?
May have been.
So there's no may have.
Well, I mean, not where they're actually willing to sell at this point is what I'm getting at. Yeah. Because they're at any time before this, I'd be like, there's no way Paramount's going to part with Star Trek. But when they're spending $1 billion on South Park and they're spending less than nothing on fucking on Star Trek, I think that kind of shows you what they feel like the franchise is worth.
Well, they're the ones that let it be driven into the ground.
They killed it. I mean, but what are you going to do? It's like, yeah, you broke the bike. Now you got to sell a broken bike, and that broken bike ain't going to make you jack shit.
The show that no one wants to see is on its way too, the Starfleet Academy thing, where they're going to retroactively destroy more stuff.
The other thing is Playmate's first toy line for Star Trek is supposed to be that animated show. So we'll see how fucking well that rolls.
Prodigy?
Yeah, Prodigy. Because my guess is this, and I don't know how you feel about this, Michael, because I know you don't know too much about it, but I'm just curious how you... I think if they're... Because I don't know, because Script and I were talking about this. We don't know the specifics of this toy deal, if they're only able to produce new show toys, or if they're able to produce classic lines too, because it sounds like they can do classic lines. And my guess is what they'll do is they'll do a couple of these new shows, and then they'll throw out some classic lines from their old, like reproductions of their old Playmates lines, and those are going to sell like hotcakes, just like the Masters of the Universe and just recently the TMNT toys that hit the shelves again. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's that whole Playmates announcement. I remember I saw the teaser image. It said Star Trek, is beaming back to Playmates or whatever.
Yeah,
and I thought, people were asking me, they were like, "Are you excited?" And I'm like, "Well, I would be if it wasn't just a bunch of blurry images of whatever that's more likely Star Trek Discovery characters and everything like that." Now, if it was heavily focused on, or God forbid, Picard characters, talk about boring action figures. If it was focused on like Brave New World or Strange New World, that'd be a little better, because at least that's closer to what a real Star Trek show should look like in my eyes. But just to grind an old axe here that Tom will be familiar with from my Star Trek video from years ago. Yeah, I know. It's like, hey, thanks for telling us nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, great. We get 6 action figures that are all the same deteriorating, dematerialized Vulcan guy from the motion
And
picture.
Actually, I don't even know if these are newer figures. If you really look close enough, I don't know if I can zoom it here. Outside of Mikey Spock. Oh, no, whenever I zoom, it just makes it
Well, you can tell that the one in the middle is the Doctor, because it's very white in the uniform.
Yeah, and this is Picard right here. I can tell that, but it's Picard in his newer uniform.
That's the admiral uniform, right?
Yeah, and that's Saru. And this is bearded Spock over here with his little tunic shit on.
So again,
that's
like
Mikey right there, and I can't tell who this is. So I think you're right. That's the Doc there.
I mean, again, I get that they have to support the new shows. I hope they index more on Strange New Worlds. However, I hope what you say is true, Tom, that they will be smart enough to do some classic stuff.
Well, they have to be, because this new stuff, like, seriously, how much do you think that's going to sell? Like, in your estimation, based on someone that is covering like the toy industry pretty well, how much do you think this is going to sell for Playmates? These figures right here.
Star Trek has always been an underdog on the toy aisle. Yes, there were a lot of action figures in the 1990s, but that's because in the 1990s, everybody was able to produce a lot of stuff. It was a pop culture merchandise boom, and then that bubble burst. And now most of the Star Trek stuff languishes even 25 years later, 28 years later now. And so what I'm saying with that is, like, yeah, Star Trek was very prolific and popular on toy aisles in the 90s with a certain subset of buyers and speculators who thought that those limited edition numbers on each figure actually meant something, which they turned out didn't mean anything. Now they're really on the back foot, because toys are more expensive and aren't as collected, never by kids, really. Star Trek toys with kids were never that popular outside of the 70s. In the 70s, the Mego Star Trek stuff was really popular, but in the 80s and into the 90s with kids, not so much. So they're going to have an uphill battle. They're going to have to aim it at adults. And just as an example, to answer your question or illustrate my perspective on this, Playmobil just dipped their toe into the Star Trek world with a $500 Enterprise, fully electronic, comes with the entire 7-person crew. It's over 3 feet long. It's sitting right next to me right now. It's glorious. But they did.
That does sound pretty sweet.
Oh, it's awesome. But they didn't model it after Strange New Worlds. They didn't model it after J.J. Abrams. They went to the license at CBS and got the original 1966 television show. So that tells me a lot. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's because the Playmates deal, everything I've read into it, suggests that it's only Secret Hideouts produce Star Trek stuff, that they don't have the license to do any of the original series or the original Gene Roddenberry Berman era stuff. That's
you could be right. You could be right, but I noticed when I don't know if you might have heard this story, Script, where I was at Walmart the other day and they had model kits, some new model kits there, and they had a bird of prey with the Grissom from Wrath of Khan.
That's maybe Search for Spock, actually, but yes.
Or Search for Spock. Sorry, my bad. Well,
no worries.
I thought it was Wrath of Khan one, but yeah,
nope.
You're right. It was a Search for Spock because it had Kirk on it. Because the other one had Khan on it. And it was the one that the other ship from.
The Reliant.
Yeah, the Reliant. But nice. I didn't grab that one. I grabbed the one with the Bird of Prey and the Grissom in it, and then I grabbed an Enterprise, and I thought it was the Enterprise, right? So I got up to the register, and I seen Mikey Spock's fucking mug on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that it was the Enterprise from Discovery. But this company they have the license to the older stuff plus the newer stuff. Because then I went and looked online after I got home, and I got the classic refit Enterprise, I guess would be from Star Trek 2 and 3, because it has the battle damage from 2.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so like it is the official one for that one. So they're mixing them all in that line. So I don't know if that's.
But that's not Playmate Toys. That's a model.
That's a different. Yeah, that's a different company. So you could be right, Script. But I'm also curious if now with all this conglomeration, they're doing what's going on, right? So it's hard to say.
It seems like that would be a legal mess, because then you'd have, if you mixed it all enough, then you don't have a distinction between each of the licensees, which means that. And I don't think either Paramount or CBS would like that, because then it's like, well, all the stuff that we used to build up Star Trek for 50 years before Secret Hideout and Bad Robot came in, now they're able to get a cut of that. Like, no, I don't see any legal team agreeing to any terms of that nature.
Oh, I agree. But that's also what I was curious about, because let's just assume that they can't do any of the classic Trek. They can only do Kurtzman era Trek. Michael, how popular do you think that's going to be on toy shelves?
Oh, not that. You talk about a niche of a niche. Like that's only going to be for the diehard. Those are the same people who in the Star Wars world, they had to have, General Holdo as a figure.
Well, how well did the Enterprise toys sell?
Yeah, and that was at the very end of everything, where people were. Like I said, Star Trek is always on the back foot in toy aisles, has been since the 80s. And yeah, the Enterprise toys were when they had reached Star Trek burnout, even with the core audience. So, and Playmates is never going to get me back into the fold with Star Trek unless they finally do a Wrath of Khan motion picture refit Enterprise to go with their line, because that was one of the things missing from their very exhaustive, comprehensive 90s toy line. They did everything else. It was like they were just trying to avoid anything to do with Wrath of Khan from a Starship perspective, which was a huge miss. So yeah, I know they don't have the rights to any of that stuff. So hearing that, it's like, well, this toy line might be, aside from the spaceships for Star Trek for the core audience always sell pretty well, but the figures, it's a wash.
I remember the phasers selling pretty well too, because getting your hands on one of those was tricky.
Oh yeah, you're right. The phaser toys, the role play toys, yeah, absolutely. I'm just thinking about the things that are supposed to kind of go with the action figures more or less,
yep.
Which is, so that's why this Playmobil thing is so impressive, because this is the first toy company that said, we're going to put 7 action figures in an actual Enterprise. We're not going to have a separate Enterprise bridge and then a separate ship like they always do. We're going to have all of it together. And it was like, wow, Playmobil just said, hold my beer. And they did this amazing thing. Pretty great.
That's got an engineering section to the ship as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's small, but at least they put it in there. And it's also got interactive lights. They've got a Bluetooth app where you can control the lights from your phone, but you can also control them from buttons in the ship. It's freaking cool. I mean,
that would blow a child's mind.
yeah, any child that was into Star Trek. So as soon as and again, I was a child that loved Star Trek, so I'm saying from experience, as soon as the child was able to extricate himself from his own locker to get back to his house, he would love it. Yes.
The only reason I brought up that other bit though, Script, because of the oddball thing, was I did check out the copyrights for him on the boxes, and normally it was like anytime what rare Discovery merchandise I would find, you're right, like normally it would say copyright whatever CBS, and then just Star Trek Discovery or whatever on it, as opposed to the classic just Star Wars or Star Trek license deal. These were identical. Like, even though the one was the classic era stuff and the one was the new era stuff, they were identical copyrights. So that's where I'm like curious if something happened recently with the whole deal. Like,
if we'll have to look into the company to see if they made 2 licensing deals with their with their contract with them?
I have no idea. But like I ordered the classic lines off of Amazon. I got the Grissom and the Bird of Prey and the refit Enterprise. So we'll see how they look.
The Grissom with Captain Esteban, who's like triple to quadruple checks everything with Starfleet Command before doing a single move.
I mean, we got to give the guy a little bit of a break. He was issued a starship with pink upholstered chairs on the bridge. All right.
Yeah, basically, it's like maybe when he was like commissioned for the job, they hadn't made the fashion layout yet. They hadn't picked the fabric for it yet. He's like, "Oh, just do whatever." And then it's like, "Nope, I have to check with every single one of these guys."
yeah, exactly.
And then Smith Self sends in a very generous $19.99 super chat to send in this very excellent Yoda quote: "Difficult to see, always in motion. The future is." There you go. Adam Wolford says, so a 2-pack for Star Wars characters, Darth Talon and Cade Skywalker go for $349.99. And for Rey and Kylo, it's going for $34.99. So which is more popular? And I know this is something that bothers you all the time too, Michael. We were just having a conversation about, how like, why are these toy companies not paying attention to this stuff? Right? Like if you see that a figure is going for hundreds of dollars online, don't you think the logic would be, maybe we should reproduce that again,
It blows me away. Like this happened all the way back with Masters of the Universe Classics as a recent example.
Right.
Back in 2013, I guess it was, Tila from the Masters of the Universe Classics line was going for like $250. Trap Jaw was the same way, Beastman. And what were they doing over at Matty Collector? They weren't even thinking about re-releasing anybody but He-Man, Skeletor, She-Ra, and Battle Cat. And it's like, everyone's got those. No one's complaining. They need all these other key characters. Nope. And that same way with Hasbro. If Hasbro, for example, didn't acquire or develop that face printing technology, a lot of these Black Series characters would probably not be getting re-released. They see an instant profitable double dip there, whereas I don't know why, but for some reason they don't use eBay as a barometer to determine what needs to come back out, which they should, because that actually determines demand. But they ignore it. It's very, very weird. It's weird. They leave money on the table all the time. I don't get it.
Yeah, it makes no sense. And I mean, unless there's some big licensing deal, it doesn't, to me, make any sense. So,
right. Yeah.
And Andre, it jumped on me again, so I don't know if we missed a couple more in between there.
Well, if we do, we'll find them out.
Definitely go back and make sure.
Yeah.
Hyper Guyver 2 sends in $2. Says Polar Lights makes a model for all eras of Trek. Yeah, so like that's the thing is, I've seen a lot more licensing that includes all of, but that's the thing is maybe that's how they got people to finally take licenses for Discovery. Who knows? I was thinking that like
basically it's like, oh, you want a cheaper license for original Star Trek? You have to take on. We'll cut you 10% off, and you take on Star Trek Discovery as well.
That's what I'm thinking.
That kind of was the thing with McFarlane. That in order to do like the newer stuff, they had to do the older stuff. That was a requirement from them.
Maybe with the new
and they put out the classic stuff first, and then maybe they would put out like the newer stuff, which of course never happened, because by that time the brand was so worn out that even the classic Trek didn't sell for McFarlane toys.
Maybe with the new deal, Kurtzman might not get any cuts of the toys. Oh. I was thinking that too.
Yeah. Like we're taking all this money to pay off everything that we lost on the first 5.
That's what I'm saying. Like they gave him this deal, like, yeah, you're getting $150 million and that's it. You're not getting nothing else. They could very well have been they played some hardball with him. Who knows? We don't know the ins and outs. That's the problem. But I just know that all of a sudden we get this Playmobil and Playmates deal, and Kurtzman's fucking getting a 5-year contract or whatever.
Well, and this is on the heel about reports that you covered here, where he actually walked out of his office, cleaned it out, and left.
I don't know about cleaning it out, but here's what I heard, and this is the best that myself and Robert has already kind of admitted some of the things, so I can say Robert was another person who kind of helped me put this together. But from what I gathered, at least the best I can accumulate. So again, don't go run into the press with this. Take it with a grain of salt. Strange New Worlds was Akiva Goldsman's baby, and something that supports that was him in the press talking about how when he came on Discovery, he was disappointed when he realized it wasn't a Christopher Pike series. He wanted to do a Christopher Pike series, and he spun the popularity of Anson Mount being on Discovery into getting his own series greenlit underneath Kurtzman's nose, which hindered him being able to do Section 31 because they were only allowed 5 shows in production at the same time, which has also been confirmed. That part, the 5.
That's still the case, even to this
not
day.
Not now. But here's what I'm getting to. So supposedly, what I heard was there was a kerfuffle between the two, and Kurtzman left because Akiva got his way with the show. But, and also this is around the same time that Akiva took over for Picard as well, if you'll remember. But then he came back, and now all of a sudden there's this toy deal, and there's this new contract, and there's all these new shows in the works. And Kurtzman has these 3 big guys at Paramount behind him. The only people that we know of that Akiva possibly has any support from is Emma Watts. So I'm thinking she got outvoted on Kurtzman's side. And other than that, become very clear that Sherry Redstone has no clue what the fuck she's doing over there. Paramount is in complete disarray. I was doing some research for other things, and I keep running into the same fucking brick walls because I keep hearing the same goddamn thing. Nobody knows anything over there. Nobody will work with anybody for anything over there, and it's a mess. And all I know is right now that there's big movements going on. I have a feeling that what we said before is probably the case. They're moving a bunch of their big properties so that when they turn around and sell Paramount, it'll be whatever's there and left, and you're going to take it. So it'll probably be like Star Trek is one of the only things that'll probably be left with it, if that's the way they're maneuvering things. We gotta get the ins and outs though before we comment.
They're removing executives left and right, Tom.
Yeah, there's a bunch of shit going on. They got they got rid of Giannopoulos.
Yep.
You're missing one aspect of that timeline though. Tom,
go ahead.
And that is around the time that it was reported that Kurtzman left is the exact time he was working on the production for Clarice. So people might be conflating the fact that he left the Star Trek Discovery office to work on Clarice. And one thing that we do know is that Alex Kurtzman is working on at least 9 shows at the same time. He does not care to stay in one place too long.
Well, and that also supports the one thing that I've always said is that him doing the Star Trek to them in his eyes is more like he's doing them a favor, right? And the only other thing that supports the whole Akiva Goldsman thing was just that what we've heard recently was that Kurtzman kind of came in and mandated certain things in Strange New Worlds, and the show is going to probably suck because of it.
Well, I mean, Goldsman isn't even really working on the show. He's the showrunner in name only. He has a writer's assistant. That's actually
you were telling me, so then you were telling me that part too, which again, who knows? I don't know that much right now, other than what we've just said, because we have not researched this whole IP movement thing that's going on. I've just been told a little bit about it, and there's a few things that I've seen in the press about it, and I haven't had a chance to really dig into it, as I'm sure Andre hasn't either. So we'll definitely get back into that, but we do have some other news to talk about here too, as well as a few more super chats to get into. Hyperguyver 2 says, I want to know why these companies don't capitalize on reprints. Look up the history of reserved lists for Magic the Gathering to know why. Well, there we go. We get an answer for some. I don't know if anybody here knows the ins and outs of the history of Magic the Gathering or why they don't capitalize on reprints, but
I just know that there's a huge I just know there's a huge collector market for it, and the prices on some of those cards are outrageous. A lot of my friends played it in high school, and I was never into role-playing card games. It just wasn't my thing, but a lot of my friends were. And yeah, I can see why there would be some backlash if they reprinted some of those cards, because it's just like with the whole anti-reproduction toys contingent, where they feel like as much as they say it's not about the money, it's about the money. All right. Like it's about their investment and their appreciating portfolio of plastic, or in this case, paper cardstock. And they don't want these companies messing that up, even though they're the IPs. So the IPs have to play nice and do this little song and dance with the hardcore, loud, vociferous collectors. So they have to strike this balance. And yeah.
I mean, I can understand it more when it comes to like cards, comics, collectibles, that reprinting or re-sending it out there can be a little bit it can devalue in some ways the collector's market on some things, but when it comes to toys, you can do variants and other things that I feel like there's ways you can still appease the fans that want something that they didn't necessarily get the first time around, perhaps, or whatever, and still not devalue the original one at the same time. I'm sure there's tons of things you could think of, Michael, that you could do. Just recently, I remember they did a great deal with, like, because you and I both complained about the heads of the Origins characters on Motu, and they came out with better versions in latter collections and whatnot, to where you could change the heads. So now I've got, the better faces on my Skeletor and He-Man now compared to what it used to be. So, at least it seems like they're listening to that kind of portion of the audience here and there. So, like, they can do things like that, it feels like.
Oh yeah. Like they could create totally new cards with new card art for Magic, for example, that use the same rule book and have the same names and everything like that to bring out the original game again, but make it distinctly different visually from the cards that are worth so much money. Although you could argue that would also make these hardcore collectors angry on some level. But yeah, there's a lot they can do to listen to those fan demands, and it's always, we are in an era where corporations have gotten too arrogant, and more often than not, they've tried to push the idea that it's no longer the customer that's right, it's the corporation, and the customer should be grateful. And I think that's wrong on a lot of levels. So yeah, I mean, as much as some of these hardcore collectors can annoy me, I would much rather they win those verbal battles than the corporations themselves. Put it that way.
Yeah, and I just don't. To me, it almost feels like, I think this is another thing that you and I have discussed, where it feels like it's almost like they're encouraging the scalper market with this kind of behavior. It feels like, and to me, that's like the wrong kind of signal you should be sending. But that's just me. And then we got Ash Lockhart, who says, knowing all the industries have been taken over by activists and there's no interest in storytelling anymore, I hope you all have a whole collection of classics to rewatch in these dark times. Yeah. And not only that, a recent conversation we were talking about, that is until they decide to come and take that from us too. All they have to do is have this stuff considered contraband, and they can come take it away from us. I know it sounds a bit hyperbolic, but we're getting close, kids.
Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah.
The good one, not the one that came out 2 years ago.
And then we did have some classic super chats here that we did miss, but we don't leave super chats behind. So I'm going to grab some of those. And then when Andre gets back, yes, Sadie, we're going to get into the other news we have here. We had one from Organic Vistas we missed from earlier, who says $10,000 a year is all you need to pay for the license. F JJ, F Kathy, F Ryan, long live Marshall, long live Gary Kurtz, legacies eternal. Indeed. Yeah, 10. I thought it was 10,000. I was going to say that earlier, but I couldn't remember for exactly how much it was. Yeah, that's all they had to produce. And then Dash D says, hey guys, did you know women are like a casino? Liquor in the front, poker in the rear. That's for you, culture. Nice to see you here, Retro.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And then A World Made of Cardboard sends in $5 and says, Retro Blasting brought me to your channel. As usual with their recommendations, I have not been disappointed. Well, we're glad to have you here. We're glad Michael have brought you here. So thank you for being here.
Excellent. Very nice to hear.
Yeah. And then Renegade God Malice says, loved Retro Blasting rant on the sequel trilogy. Oh, Michael's done some great videos on the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, I've done two or three, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at least three. Yeah. It's kind of
it's been a handful, at least, almost.
Yeah, it's been a handful, but I try to moderate those because otherwise my channel would just become the sequel trilogy hate channel. So I try and focus on things I like as well.
No, but I can vouch that you put a lot of thought behind your videos, because like that's another reason why you haven't been on so much lately is when you get into your videos, you are into your videos. And
oh yeah, my head's down at the workbench, and that thing is doing that electrical thing in the Frankenstein lab, and I'm like trying to get the video ready. Yeah, for sure.
So thank you for that, Renegade God Malice. And then we got that one. Let's see here. We got that one. I think we're almost caught up here, except for I'm gonna double check just to make sure. S Sharp sent in a super chat who said, would the book quote have released if JWR not had passed away? I don't think that's the case, because these books take so long to kind of get published. I know Script probably has a little bit more to say to that, if anything.
Yeah, usually around, depending on the density of the book, it could be from 2 years to 5 years.
Yeah, so this is something that's been in motion for a while, and that's another reason why I don't think Chapek had anything to do with this either.
He wasn't even part of the head of Disney at the time of this initial writing or interview was being taking place. So
exactly, this is all happening way before his time. Mad Leprechaun then sent in $5 and said, while the situation with Star Wars is sad, in 7 years it won't matter because Skynet will begin to overthrow everyone. You're not wrong. I got one of those little Roomba things, and he already runs the house. So I call him Kirby. And I've been told if once you name them, you got to keep them. So I don't know if you guys have anything to say to that, but hail our AI overlords.
Yeah, well, it's not like we've been warned about this many times over, that our keen attitude towards being clever in this direction is going to be our undoing. So.
Yeah. And then speaking of handfuls, here's a handful of super chats that we missed from earlier on. Darius Munchausen sent in a popcorn sticker. Thank you so much for that. Organic Vistas also sent a super chat earlier, said, I didn't think Retro and Cameron could be eclipsed in honest ripping of Hollywood crap. Marcia is the sun those boys orbit now. Name's Mike. Love you. Thank you, Organic Vistas. And yeah, Michael and Cameron do definitely know how to rip Hollywood some new buttholes, but Marcia is definitely now the sun.
Hey, look, I'm just glad that I live in a solar system where there is a sun that gives me life.
Exactly.
So, yep.
That is a very good point. Troy Pacelli then said, first Frank Oz speaks out, now Marcia Lucas. I also love retro blasting, and all the rest of y'all too. Yeah, again, though, I think Frank Oz was directly more involved with the Chapek business, not so much the Marcia Lucas thing, but there you go. Beautiful Bliss says, remember when women fight with words? Oh, okay, we got this one, but bears repeating. Remember, women fight with words, then act on those words. So don't rule out that there were words said between these women. And again, I don't think there has been, because she is definitely calling her out in this quote. So let's see here. And then Meredith G, I think, is the last one that we missed from earlier, who says, Maria's comments about George is one of disappointment because she knows what he is capable of, and she has to know the role she played in George's failure. Yeah, again, I think I remember her saying quotes before similar to things that we've said before, where basically George just didn't have enough people around him to ask him questions for the prequels. And as much as I love them, and a lot of other people do, I know they have their flaws, and I'll be the first to point them out. So, granted, they've gotten much better with age now that we have the Star Wars sequels, though, that's for sure. That's
when something stinkier comes along, you kind of relish the slightly more pleasant scent of the previous stinky stench.
And it was never that I hated them; it was just a disappointment. The Star Wars sequels, I fucking hate. Like I can say that with zero reserve. And then we got some newer super chats here from Eric Ronga Madsen. Now I'm really fucking it up. So, will there be toy shortage this Christmas? That's a good question for you, Michael. Do you think with the current state of things, is there going to be a toy shortage this year?
I think it's a distinct possibility, although it will be mitigated by the fact that children allegedly don't really care much about toys proportionally anymore. Some kids do. And I also predict that the only toys that are going to get through are Lego sets, because Lego seems to have no problem with this, where all the other toy companies do. I guess it just is a matter of where they're manufactured. Lego has figured that out. They've buffered themselves against these headwinds, as a business news show would say. And then, I do see the toy shortage continuing. I mean, they couldn't even get the Masters of the Universe exclusives from Mattel to PowerCon in time this year. And also on top of that, there's now speculation based on the invoice I got from them that those toys they kept telling people, oh no, they're on a boat. They're just not getting offloaded at Long Beach. It's, all the barges are held up. Well, now from what I'm seeing, it looks like based on the dates of delivery, estimated November, December, January, it looks like those things haven't even been manufactured yet.
Oh, wow.
So it's a mess. It's a real mess.
Yeah, I know you were telling me a little bit about how they're handling that. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Of course, there was only really like one of those or two of those that I really was interested in anyway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But, And then what bothers me about that is that means Grizzlor will probably only be available that way. Those dirty bastards.
Oh, I know. That's what infuriated me the most. I'm like, if I don't get this overpriced set, I might actually miss out on Grizzlor, because Grizzlor was all I cared about.
That's the only one I really wanted.
Yeah, exactly. It was. I know I sound like first world problems. But
I know, right?
But you know what? I'm starting to discount that phrase, because every situation that you're in, regardless of its global gravitas, your job as an ethical human being is to leave it better than you found it. Whatever the situation is, whatever the scenario, whether it's material, whether it's pithy, whether it's, immense or, profound, whatever it is, I want to leave the situation better than I found it. So whether I'm talking about the state of, hospital ethics, or I'm talking about the state of the toy industry, I feel like those conversations are always important, no matter what arena they're in. I get sick of people who are like, what does it matter, man? It's just toys. Let it go. It's like, there are more important things. Okay, well, then why are you in this conversation? Go away.
That's a very important outlook. No, you're 100% right, and I agree with you on that.
Yeah. Well, toys stimulate the imagination of children. I mean, there's value to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, really, and that goes back to my whole point before, when, like Kevin Smith and a lot of people were just saying, oh, who gives a shit about Masters of the Universe? It's just a show made to sell toys. It's like, you just don't get it, do you? You really don't.
It may have appeared that way, but it became something more. I mean, because Lou Schreider just like, no, let's do something extra with that.
Exactly. And I mean, that goes with everything. I mean, you could argue that all Star Wars did was exist to sell toys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
even though we know it didn't.
Exactly. No, to me, and that's why I try not to shit on things like Twilight and stuff. Even though I don't respect them, I know that Twilight means something to somebody, so I try to be as nice as I can as possible.
Right.
My Little Pony, same thing. I got no love or respect for My Little Pony, but I know there's fans out there in the chat, and I respect the fact that meant something to them.
Right.
Exactly. So, and that's the thing is, and I think, and with the Masters Universe thing, I've even had, I told you, like I had one of my waves canceled. So yeah, I do think there's going to be a bit of a toy problem this year. I don't know if it's going to be huge, but I do feel like you're right on the nose that there's going to be a little bit of a problem this year. But do kids even really care that much about toys anymore?
Well, it's starting to finally impact kids' interests, because it's like, when am I going to see? This is a kid saying this. When am I going to see a PlayStation 5 in stores? It's like they can't even get their video games to market now. And that was happening really long before the pandemic. The PS5 has never found its distribution footing. It's just been a hot mess the whole time. And Sony can keep making excuses all at once, but it's like, now you can't even. I went into a GameStop last week, and it was the first time in over a year that I saw the Logitech, the Hoda aviation stick and throttle for aviation games for the PS4. It was the first time I'd seen it in over a year, because they all sold out ahead of Microsoft Flight Simulator, whatever. So nobody could get them for X-Wing Squadrons that came out. And I was like, well, I'll try and get one. And they were going for like crazy prices on the secondhand market. Yesterday, when I go in there, not even looking for it, there's like 4 of them, and they're just retail price. And I'm like, wow, it took that long for those to show back up. So
kind of reminds me of like in the Super Nintendo or the regular NES Mini and stuff like that, how that was handled as well.
Yeah.
Ash Lockhart says, have you guys heard of the new rating system for businesses? It's called the ESG rating. You should look into it. It's all about woke agendas to help company culture. I imagine you.
Well, that's an oxymoron. A woke agenda can never help a company.
Yeah, it's actually, it's oriented around banking industry and sustainable investment. It actually stands for environmental, social, and governance. That's what the 3 letters are there. It is a way to manipulate various things through the forms of finance, and it is, one of the things that have been weaponized against, people who don't want to comply with, this new world order that's being pushed upon people. And I hate to say it that way, but this new way of thinking.
Hey, they've used the words themselves. So
yeah, I just, it comes along with the woke and the intersectional stuff that, is ruining every aspect of modern life in the world. So there you are.
Mm-hmm. Scott Hughes is another person who was brought here by Retro Blasting. So hail, he says, and very appreciative. And we're appreciative to have you here, Scott. And thank you for joining us. Yeah.
Scott's a good guy. I've met him in person. He's a good man.
Awesome. We've had a very popular morning, I'd say, because Michael always is a great guest here. We always love to have him. And he always has great insight. Even when he doesn't necessarily know about something, he seems to know something about something.
Michael's that guy that just can talk about anything and BS his way through any conversation.
No, it's not even BS. Like, you didn't really know much about the Playmates deal, but you know enough about the ins and outs, and you know about the history enough that you could make educated.
I was making fun of myself. I didn't say you were.
No. But like, we love having you, Michael. We're not kidding. Roof Korean the Based says, good to see Retro Blasting on. Indeed it is. Script Doctor, other panelists, aside from it being hearsay, anything legal stopping scandals Rinsler mentioned coming. Oh, I think he meant to say SJW Rinsler's mentioned coming out. It's coming out. It's getting out. It's working its way out into the public. It didn't take that long. The book just came out on the 14th, and here we are, less than a week after it. Talking
it's on the shelves, as far as I know, right?
Yeah. So it's out. And again, like I was saying earlier, Roof Korean, I don't know if you heard, but I feel like we're just seeing the beginning of this. I think this is going to resonate quite a bit. I think the papers are going to start picking up on this, we'll see how it goes. I'm sure a lot of the bigger news sites won't touch it with a 10-foot pole, but we'll see, because they tend to side more with the Iger side of things. Stephanie Janachek is hanging out in the chat still. Thank you for being here. Says the Pico trilogy's aging better than I thought, and I say Marcia likely did have a few words with the Empress who has no clothes. I don't think she has yet.
She's been a ghost in the industry for 30 years.
I think that this was her calling her out. She's like, you know my name, you know my name,
you know my number. Give me a call if you want help.
Exactly. I think that's what she's saying, is like, why didn't you talk to me? You know, you want strong women behind this thing. And that's the other thing, is she brings up the women part, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like, I feel like there's definitely, this is her sending a message.
Well, I don't know if I think she knew that the book would get a lot of traction within Star Wars fans. I don't know how much she was actually saying this to actually, like, drop a nuclear bomb on the whole world. Like, I don't think that was the case. I think she just was very cavalier about her attitude towards what's going on. And the fact that, something that she was there at the very beginning of, it has a legacy that she's a part of, which is now tarnished again from her perspective. It's like more so. Like, first it was tarnished because George lost his way a little bit with the prequel trilogies, despite like what other people like about him, which is fine. And then really lost his way when Disney got a hold of it and just went off the rails.
There you go. And again, like, I don't like that last bit where she's like, Kathy, JJ, we need to talk. Like, that's her kind of calling him out. Like, hey, you know my name, you know my number. Why didn't you talk to me before? You can talk to me now, kind of thing. I think that's really what she's saying there. I could be wrong. I mean, they may have talked since then, but I don't see any reason why Kathy would seek her out, really, to be honest with you. And with that, I think we're caught up, unless there was some other super chats I missed in there. I think I got most of them. We'll definitely go back and check in a few minutes, but we do have another story to touch on now that we've got Andre back.
Let's do that.
So you got to see Dune. A lot of people have got to see Dune, but only in certain places. It's open in 17 markets right now. And everybody kind of thought, oh, it's not going to do that great. It's not going to do that great, except for like me. And I think Culture, you were a little bit kind of on that train too. You like, oh, this has some potential, like I was saying. And needless to say, now we have a kind of an idea of what Dune can do or did do over the weekend. And it went way above and beyond any expectations. It has already made 37 million in those 17 markets.
And that's actually impressive because they told us they were projecting it just over 20.
Yeah, so and I said, you better readjust that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now
I believe we have a meme for that.
What is that?
Oh.
Well, you know that.
I know what the name is.
Yeah. Like a meme for that.
Yeah.
Oh, my meme?
Yeah, of course.
We already played it, so I didn't know I get to play it again.
Yeah.
I fucking knew it! Oh!
Yeah.
Well, and I felt this energy with Dune, right? And I'm curious, Michael. I know I know you're at least somewhat of a fan of Dune because you did talk about the classic toys before, and I'm curious what you feel about the new ones as well. But how about the film, though? Have you had any anticipation for it at all? Is it something you're looking forward to?
I don't know how to say this, and what I'm about to say is not negative. It's not even ambivalent. You're about to hear something very positive. I'm just trying to word it so that I get the right amount of impact.
No, this should be good.
I was a huge admirer of Blade Runner 2049, specifically what the director was able to accomplish, how he intrinsically showed and demonstrated that he understood the Blade Runner milieu. Now, there are people that have disagreed with me about that, but for a sequel following 30 years later after the original, of which we've had many, Tron, a number of others, Ghostbusters, let's not talk about that too much, from 2016. But he really respected the material. Like this was a guy who took what is now considered one of the greatest science fiction movies of all time, and bravely stepped in and followed Ridley Scott's work and did a bang up job. I don't think it could have been done any better. You can't throw darts at it. Like I can throw darts through Tron Legacy a little bit, as much as I enjoyed elements of it, but I thought he did a fascinating job with it. So when I heard he was going to do Dune, I was like, oh man, like that's going to be great, because I know people love to look through rose-colored glasses at the David Lynch film, but even David Lynch himself has said that Dune wasn't what he wanted it to be. And there were technological limitations, and, there was all the stuff in the background and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I own it on 4K. It is an important film in the milestones of film technology and trying to bring something new to everything, but it didn't stick the landing. The film didn't stick the landing. We all know it. And part of that was maybe the audience wasn't ready for it. And part of that was that the story was very difficult to convey, because Frank Herbert's writing was, very epic. It's like Tolkien. It's just boom. So we needed a deft hand on this. And so what I'm saying with that is, even though there's been a Dune miniseries and there's been the David Lynch film, Dune is the closest thing with this new film that we're going to get to finally having a new franchise. Because meaning an old story, but bringing new life into the cinema, because superhero movies are tired, and Star Wars movies are terrible, and Star Trek is, on life support, and Doctor Who, we won't even go into that. We need something new. We've all been saying it. We want something new. And while Dune is old, it has not been brought to audiences in a way where the broader audience has become aware of it and embraced it. And Peter Jackson pulled it off with Lord of the Rings. I think the director of Blade Runner 2049, the only reason I'm not saying his name is simply because I'll mispronounce it, and I don't want to sound like an idiot. I know it. I know how it looks and spelled. I can never pronounce it. And yes,
go ahead, Andre.
My last name
is Villeneuve.
Okay, my last name is French, and ironically, I can't say it. So my point in saying all that is, this is an exciting moment, because it's the guy from Blade Runner 2049, who's an amazing filmmaker, doing Dune. I can't think of a better guy to do it. And I want to see something fresh in movie theaters. I want to see audiences embrace something they've never seen before and get away from all of these tired franchises a little bit. So if I'm being effusive, I do not apologize for it. I want this film to succeed. That doesn't mean that I'm going to go in with rose-colored glasses, but from everything I've seen and read, and even listened to Andre's video about it on Midnight's Edge a few days ago, it's everything that I expected from this director, and I can't wait.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that you'll be quite pleased hearing what you think about Blade Runner 2049. I said my reservations. I only have like actually three. The score, which isn't so much a score as it is industrial noise.
Yeah, and that's what happened. Yeah, that's what happened in 2049 too. He got Hans Zimmer, and the whole score is just wow, which is really annoying. I agree with you, Andre.
Yeah, so that's a shame. I really would have liked them to get someone else to give it a proper score rather than just industrial noise.
What was Alan Silvestri doing?
There are so many others that could have done really good with this. Like the guy who did Guardians of the Galaxy and Pacific Rim, I forget his name. He could have done amazing with this. That Icelandic person doing The Mandalorian could have done also.
Oh, Ludwig Göransson, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are so many that could have done great with this. But one who couldn't was Hans Zimmer, and Hans Zimmer is who he chose. So that's unfortunate. And then it's like, having read the script, there were things in the script that impressed me so much that we were able to like relay the story, the mythology, the backstory, and all of that is gone. So that's like my one disappointment. But that's because I knew it was at one point there. If you haven't read the script, you don't know it's there. You just see the movie for its own. And I do think it probably works really well as a movie on its own. I want to rewatch it on my own another time. Or with someone else, rather, with someone that's completely new to it and get like their reaction to it as well. But I think you'll be pleased. I think most people will be quite pleased with this movie.
Yeah, and maybe they'll take some of that into account, with a sequel to this film and go, hey, maybe we should actually get a score, like the next,
But so otherwise, Culture, what's your reaction to this news? Since you were kind of with me thinking, this could be one of those movies.
I felt like you and I were in a different direction on this because I was like, this thing's going to do really well. I mean, it was off to a pretty big start. I was very optimistic. It got a 12-minute, standing ovation, and in its premiere at the Venice Film Festival. I was really excited, right? And I really do hope that it keeps this momentum. I hope that it has the legs required. But this is a good strategy, right? It's the same strategy, only in a different set of markets that they did with the Fast 9, Fast Saga film. They started it off in Asia, and then it eventually made it to the States. This is going, from a different direction. And with this also getting a China release, I have a feeling that the gross box office here is going to be more than a little respectable. And I know that it's going to do well in the US. And I know that, I'm not the only person that I know that, again, outside of, obviously all my YouTube friends, but everybody I know outside of that is going to go see this, and we're going to go see it in the biggest format possible. So I feel like, when they point towards films to save the box office, right? Because it's been like that this whole summer. Well, this film's going to save the box office. Well, this film's going to save the box office. Well, I think this one might actually live up to the deal. So
will it though? Here's my one caveat to what you're saying. I agree with you, except for one thing. Mm-hmm. I think Warner and Legendary probably hasn't made this choice, but Warner is shooting themselves in the foot by not just releasing this theatrically in the US, even if they hold off on HBO Max for the other 30 some days they have left.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And because the momentum this movie has right now is intense. I know a bunch of people who bought tickets this last weekend thinking the movie was coming out, and they're like, oh, the fucker don't come out till October.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people. I mean, we were talking about it the other night on Scott's show, on the Sporkin news dump, right? Talking about it, and Lady G was like, "Oh shoot, my ticket! I bought it a month ahead of time." You know, and I'm
she was another one.
Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? That's good though. Okay, because that's going to show you're going to really see some real numbers in the theater of actual human beings going to something. It's not going to benefit from this, you know, quote unquote gold open movement. You know, there's no GoFundMe that I'm aware of at this point in time that's trying to artificially prop up this film, and I'm excited. Of course, I've been looking forward to seeing this, see this film for a very long time. And when Andre alleviated some of my fears about it, you know, I like I said, I think, and I will continue to think until you know, the numbers come out, that this is going to overperform a lot of the early projections that we've had from just a couple of months ago. So we'll see.
You're right. Yeah. And I got to correct myself from earlier. It's now open in 24 markets. As of Friday, it opened up in a few more. So it went from 17 to 24.
Yep.
But Script, what's your feeling on this? And I really want to get your view on the fact that I heard that they're already, you know, of course, working on the second script. Do you think this weekend box office pushed them even further towards the second film?
That's up to Legendary, really. I mean, they're the ones that are the chief financiers of the movie. If Warner Brothers is good for for the distribution model that they want, I can see a deal happening. I'm really happy that this movie is resonating really well with these markets, because again, as much as I enjoyed some of the visual cues and things that Denny V, I'll just call him right now, can do. One thing I do have an issue with him is his pacing is kind of weird as a director. There's some shots that just linger a little bit longer than they need to. But that's just my taste.
Just watch Lawrence of Arabia 20 or 30 more times to get used to it. You'll love it.
I love Lawrence of Arabia. Yeah.
I just have to say, Script, that I do hope that you'll agree with Retro that you're going to come to love it, because I heard you say on another stream where I wasn't present myself, but I heard on the playback that you were like worried that the script was for like a 2-hour film.
Yeah,
they had stretched it so much, and you were worried that Villeneuve had failed to discipline himself.
That's one thing I was worried about. Yeah,
you didn't use those exact words, but he did in no way, shape, or form discipline himself. That's kind of like what I was thinking, that this is a view. There's actually very few words spoken in the movie. There's like so much like epic landscape and emotional shots and atmosphere shots and stuff like that they perfectly well had time for those more like world building scenes. They just chose not to put them in. Maybe so there'd be more time for like epic landscapes and stuff. But I don't know. But he definitely did not discipline himself in that regard.
And then Diego Flores, one of our hosts over on Midnight's Edge Espanol, sent me a story from Peru where they're talking about Dune as well. So it's getting a lot of buzz over there as well. He basically kind of translated the one story here and amalgamized it into one little sentence or paragraph here. He says, basically, they're saying why Dune with Timothée Chalamet might be the most important film of 2021. And basically everyone is recognizing the epic scale of this movie and trying to get people to watch it when it releases. So there you go. So they're already talking about it in Peru as well. So yeah, there's a lot of buzz. And the thing is these aren't even huge major markets this has opened in so far.
It's gotten great reviews in Norway too, for what it's worth, where it has opened.
Exactly. I mean, and again, I've heard a few people who didn't like it. And again, I have a feeling this is going to be one of those movies where you're going to get some people who are just not going to like it. And you're going to get some diehard Dune fans who are just going to be completely against it. But I think you said that the real gauge is the people that aren't as aware of what it is, Andre. And you said you talked to a few people after the movie. And if you want to reiterate what they said.
Yeah, because again, I had read the script, so I was the worst person to judge it in that sense. I wasn't able to put myself into the mindset of someone that's new to it and try to guess what they might feel. And I saw the movie with someone else who knows the material exceedingly well, and who therefore also wouldn't be able to assess how does a newcomer to the franchise understand this. But I was able to speak with two gentlemen who attended the same screening, and none of them were fans of the franchise. As in, it's not that they didn't like it; they just weren't familiar with it, and they loved the movie, and they were completely blown away by it. And they said they had no problems understanding what was happening on screen. So maybe Villeneuve did the right thing in cutting down on all the world building and just staying very clear on the part of the story that's being told in the part of the book we're covering. So we haven't seen so much of the scheming and stuff like that. We have a very simple screen story, and that's what he chose to focus on.
Yeah. Well, my other big thing, though, and I think this needs to be addressed, as I brought up, do you think that this is a bad deal for Warner to wait so long to release this film here in the U.S. and some of the bigger markets? Do you think the buzz will have died down? Because it's over a month before this movie comes out. Andre, what do you think on that? And then we'll get everybody else.
I'm actually worried about that. I'm surprised that you would, not just the US, but the UK as well. That it's, right. I mean, this is the kind of wait that when I was a kid, and well, actually not even when I was a kid, back when Star Trek Beyond came out, that was a movie that I had to wait 2 months for before it opened locally. But generally, that was a thing of the past, that movies would come out months and months later internationally than in the US. But that was in ancient history. It's a different world now, especially now after the coup with online releases which drop worldwide at the same time. And then suddenly you have a movie that drops theatrically in select markets, but not in the US and UK for 5 weeks, and then simultaneously in theaters and digitally. To me, that's weird. And I wonder how many people are really hyped and want to see the movie now. But by the time they get to see the movie, the excitement has passed. They moved on to something else. It's oh, well, whatever. Dune is out now. Okay, I'll catch it on HBO Max. I was going to see it on IMAX, but I don't care anymore. I'll see it on HBO Max in 2 weeks. I mean, what's another 2 weeks now when I waited 5 already? I'm worried there's going to be people with that mindset.
What about you guys? Let's start with you at the bottom there, Script.
I
kind of got your reaction to this again, but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I have nothing more to really add to that.
Okay. All right. Well, Michael, do you think that this is going to hurt their box office here in the U.S. by waiting so long to get it out here?
I did find it odd that it was going to be that long. October, whatever it is over here.
Almost November. I mean, October 22nd. It's practically November.
It's kind of lunacy. I'm not really sure why they did that. And understanding the illogical logic of Hollywood is impossible. I mean, there's potential for it to hurt. I don't want it to have the same result that Blade Runner 2049 did, where it was expected. Back in 1982, nobody went and saw Blade Runner, and a few years ago, nobody went and saw Blade Runner 2049. So, I mean, it's just one of those sad bits.
Well, actually, that to me was completely expected, though, because they spent too much money on it. They vastly overrated the popularity of the movie when they shouldn't have, and it's a niche thing. It wasn't. They scaled and budgeted for a 4-quadrant blockbuster, which Blade Runner was never going to be.
Yep, like they did with Tron Legacy. It was just a
exactly.
Exactly. Dune, I think, though, is very much poised to be a science fiction breakout franchise. And I don't mean to sound so businessy, because Dune is a truly great story. But what I mean by that is, like Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, if properly handled, it can become a classic. And much in the same way that Lord of the Rings had a number of attempted misfires prior to Peter Jackson's arrival on the scene, Dune is in the same position. And so I feel like this, even with the month delay, I think there is potential for this to pick up the word of mouth. And I know there's a lot of anticipation amongst the people that I talk to, but I also acknowledge that I work as a pop culture reviewer and analyst. So the people I talk to are despite the fact that they disagree a lot. It is not an accurate barometer of mainstream interest. Right. So.
No, and I'm glad you brought up the Lord of the Rings, because that's kind of the barometer that I've used to gauge how I think this movie is going to play out. And I don't know how often you get to listen to the show, but I'm glad you brought that up too, because that makes me feel like I'm kind of on the right track with this one, because I feel like it has that potential. Because like Lord of the Rings, when that film came out, yeah, it was known as, you know, as this fantasy franchise as far as the books goes, but outside of the Hobbit film television special, most people really weren't aware of what Lord of the Rings was. Dune actually has a little bit more of a footing, because you have the Lynch film, you have the sci-fi miniseries, so there's a little bit more of a built-up fan base already there to it. On top of people that are just probably going to be interested in general, just because they know of it, right? Like it's something that's in the zeitgeist of sci-fi, you know, knowledge. Like people, you can ask them like, oh, I've never read the book, but I know what it is. You know, I've seen the Lynch film or whatever. You know, so I think enough people are aware of it that I feel like the interest is there. So and
I mean, I see some people in the comments saying Dune is not Lord of the Rings, but people forget that Lord of the Rings, but people forget that Lord of the Rings wasn't Lord of the Rings. Like it was for literature enthusiasts. But look, Frank Herbert's Dune has a rabid, devoted following of readers. Like it is Tolkien level fandom for literature. And
absolutely. I mean, in literature, it's absolutely an apt comparison. I mean, Lord of the Rings is the Lord of the Rings of fantasy, while Dune is the Lord of the Rings of science fiction.
Yes, exactly.
And there's actually a basis for this. Go check out our interview with Robert Shea. He says in that interview, when he decided to take on Lord of the Rings and not just make it 2 movies, but 3, and spend the kind of money they did on filming 3 movies at once, everybody at the company lost their fucking minds. They thought that Bob was going to bury the company because of this. They thought this is going to be the world's biggest flop. Nobody's going to go see this shit. Like they thought that he was insane for doing this. Like he said he had so many nasty messages from people like saying you're going to fucking kill the company. And what did he do? Well, basically, he made New Line Cinema what it is today. Unfortunately, he's no longer part of it. But I mean, it's now just a big conglomerate part of Warner Brothers. But I mean, that was the movie that made that New Line bigger than a mini studio. You know what I mean? Andre, help me out here. You know how to say it better than me, but yeah. Like
basically, he's a mogul. But
they didn't have faith in Lord of the Rings.
The last studio mogul, and a good one that didn't inherit something from his granddad, but you actually built from scratch. You have how Cameron always says that you have like 3 generations. You have the generations that builds, you have the generations that inherits and maintains and builds further, and then you have the lazy ones that just take it over, have never worked for anything, and they squander it. Right?
That's because they grew up with all the rewards of the previous 2 generations, whereas say if I were to build a new company and my kid was alive at that point, they would still have memories of the struggles and the effort that was put involved in creating that, and they'd be able to carry that on. But their child would not, because the success would have already been, ideally, the success would have already been achieved, and so they don't understand the value of sacrifice and determination and ambition and work in order to strengthen and build up and continue to build up that company.
Exactly. And Bob Shea, he's first generation. He's one of the very few legit first generation studio moguls living today. And he just explained how to do it. You have to take some risks. And Lord of the Rings was one of those.
Well, and
as he explains, it was the bigger risk was not doing it the way that things lined up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's the thing, is he knew what he was doing. He saw the bigger picture that nobody else could, and that's why he just let it roll, right? Because he's like, it was already prepaid for as far as like a lot of things were going, and he knew it was going to be at least, he basically said, even if it flopped, they knew they could sell the other 2 movies in enough cable markets and shit that it would at least make its money back. because he knew how to kind of.
Well, he spent decades selling to all other markets throughout his career. Like that's just what he did.
He would pre-sell movies, yes. Yeah. Like Golan Globus would, and all those guys. Like they basically built an entire kind of cottage industry on doing this. But I mean, just the foresight that he had to say no, it has to be 3 films, and we're going to film them all at once. You know, and all these. Just he was insistent on taking this risk. I mean, even if you go as far as Ninja Turtles. Like that was another one that just kind of came across their desks because everybody else in town had passed on it. And he's like, I don't know what the fucking Ninja Turtle is. And just somebody piped up, I think it was Sarah Risher, piped up and said, oh, my kid loves that. He goes, what? He goes, yeah, we bought him all of them for Christmas last year. And he's like, all right, we'll give him a couple $1 million. And ended up becoming the highest grossing independent film of all time. You know, because everybody else had thought Ninja Turtles had kind of run their course by 1990. So they didn't want to take a chance. But he didn't know what it was, but he's like, fuck it. If, you know, kids like it, then it must be something, there must be something to it. And Bob was one of those who actually listened to people, right? Like, that's why the Nightmare on Elm Street films had such a, you know, 2-3 times where they've changed course because he listened to what the fans were saying. And he's like, oh, we got to fix that. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 didn't work. Well, we got to fix that. So what did we get? Probably the greatest Nightmare on Elm Street film of all time with Nightmare on Elm Street 3, because he made sure that movie was what the fans wanted. And then the same thing again started happening with the latter films. So then he tried again, bringing Wes Craven back in and stuff like that. So it's not like he didn't try, and he knew what he was doing. And those are the kind of chances that Hollywood needs to take again, right? And I think Dune is one of those perfect examples, and I feel like it could do what Lord of the Rings did, especially with a new generation of fans out there, because we're due for it. It's been 20 years since Lord of the Rings came out. And it was just over 20 years from Star Wars when Lord of the Rings came out then. So like I said, I think we're due, and Dune might be it. I said this about 1.5 years ago.
Yeah, it's been 20 years since Lord of the Rings and 40 since the last theatrical Dune. Although 20 years since the last TV Dune, which was about the same time as Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I feel like it's and I also noticed it first when I noticed that more people were viewing the Dune trailer than the Batman trailer.
Yeah.
And now, Culture, I know you kind of gave your feelings on, you know, the whole how it's going to do in the US, but I don't know if you want to speak a little bit more on if you think it's a bad idea for them to wait this long or not, but I'll give you the final word on Dune before we get back into Super Chats.
Look, I mean, you're not wrong about the timing. I think the timing is perfect. I think that it's a mistake not to immediately have been already moving towards production for the second film. But again, the hindsight's 2020 for us as we look at this with fresh eyes, you know, after a year of, you know, sitting on the sidelines because a lot of films were just held in reserve. I can't wait for this film. I think it was a bad plan for Warner to commit to the entire year for day and date release. And I think that's the thing, like you mentioned, that'll hurt the film in the long run. But you're also not wrong that this very well could be based on the literary background of the two properties between, you know, Lord of the Rings and this book, you know, Dune, these properties, Frank Herbert's properties. I think that's a pretty decent parallel for the two different kinds of genre. And I'm looking forward. I can't say it in any other way. I am very much looking forward to seeing this film, and I will find it on IMAX and I will watch it there. So I think this will be one of the films that we won't doubt whether or not it made money. I think this film is going to make money, and if people want to laugh at me at that, that's fine. But
no, you've been saying it the whole time. You're going to be vindicated.
Yeah, I hope so.
I think you will be. I'm starting to think.
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake in the end is that they didn't film the two parts together. Yeah, because then they could have had this time down to be finishing the second part.
To be fair, though, actually, they can make it work for them.
I know you said with the time
because there's about to be a time jump now. The if you go by the books, the time jump doesn't happen just where the movie ends, but there is. This is a good place to have a time to give a couple of years for the characters to age up a little bit.
Yeah,
and then the things that we don't see right now, well, they can easily basically just do like an opening narration.
But we don't know. 5 years. Denny might have filmed a few things and been saving them too. We don't.
Hopefully he did. Hopefully he did film a couple of things because then they're good to go.
then my next question is going to be, how do we know somebody wasn't thinking ahead pretty well there for Warner looking at this, or they weren't thinking forward, because they already greenlit the series, I always screw up the name, the Bene Gesserit.
Bene Gesserit series. That's been a bit tumultuous, but it is starting to finally get underway from what we've been hearing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, I mean, it seems like they're leaning into this, and maybe this is lightning in a bottle again, but it doesn't happen all the time, man. 20 years, that's when you catch lightning in a bottle. It's not.
Yeah, I don't want to jump the gun too much, but yeah.
No. I'm just saying, is this a possibility? Sure.
Considering it's only in 24 markets and made $37 million in a 3-day weekend, that's pretty damn good. It made $8 million just on Thursday. So
well, and let's lean into a little bit of what Mr. H was talking about when we were talking about this last week, and that is, these aren't exactly the giant film markets. They're not where you get a huge ton of cash. So these numbers are really good, and you compare them across the board. They did really well in these markets. I mean, even Italy pulled in 2.6 million, right? Ukraine is 1.2. Norway.
I think it even did better than Shang-Chi altogether.
Oh, yeah, for the weekend. Yeah, it did. Not by much, but it did. And Norway even came in at just under 1 million at 979,000.
That's pretty good for Norway, especially in this day and age. I mean, and my screening was freaking packed.
Yeah, and I think word of mouth is going to help this too, Andre. Don't you think? I mean, I'm sure you had such positive reception from the people that you conversed with after the film.
If they were anything to go by, it's going to have massive word of mouth, and the reviews here have been excellent. They really have. Like, the reviews are really, really strong, stronger than I would expect.
There you go. Mad Leprechaun says, remember when the original RoboCop was considered to be very ridiculous at the idea of corporations running things? Good times. Yeah, no shit, right? RoboCop becomes more and more of a documentary every damn day.
Yeah, you know why? That's because Judge Dredd is the true prophet and the one that's predicting the way of the future. I mean, go back and read the 70s and 80s Judge Dredd comics. We're living them right now. And the reason I bring that up is because RoboCop is a pure rip-off of Judge Dredd. That's how they were able to get that right, simply by osmosis and taking things from Judge Dredd, and that's basically what happened.
Isn't that funny how, in the regard that you hold Judge Dredd, I hold RoboCop, but I know it's a rip-off. I don't care. Like, to me,
it's actually even more like an honorary homage of, like, this is how Judge Dredd started.
Dead or alive, you're coming.
Or other way around. This is how RoboCop started.
I mean, in reality,
he means it's a prequel to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But still, also, but again, nothing wrong with that. I mean, we all love He-Man here, and we know it's a ripoff of Conan. I mean, that doesn't preclude me loving Conan.
No. I just think it's ironic.
Same with Batman in the Shadow and Doc Savage with a little bit of Superman in there. Like, there's things that kind of feed each other, but as time goes on and new people get involved with it, it becomes its own thing that we can kind of love independently, but it does stem from a lot of similar original stories.
Yeah,
I've gotten in fights over RoboCop though. So Grant was 242 sends in $5, says, watch Dune yesterday and liked it very much. Great big screen experience, and the theaters sold out with some COOF restrictions, of course. So yeah, that's the other thing I feel is going to be a big part of this. But hey, I mean, if this thing can still do well considering everything that's going against it, that says a lot. And the chat jumped on me, so I don't know if this is necessarily the next super chat. And I know we had a couple other ones before these as well that we're gonna have to go back to. So don't worry, we're gonna go back to them. Bama Grad does say though that I saw the effect the Emmy chicken commercial had on Doomcock show. Everyone developed a severe case of the giggles. Nice job.
Yeah, I've seen many requests for that, so I think you're gonna have to play it here as well.
Have you seen it at all?
No, I haven't. So
for God's sake!
For the first time with the rest of the audience.
Okay, for some context, because I don't know if Michael, you haven't seen Shang-Chi yet, have you?
I haven't. No.
Okay, well, in the Shang-Chi movie, there is this creature that Andre described as Snarf without a head, or a headless Snarf.
Well, that sounds horrible.
It does.
It was every bit as horrible as it sounded. Yeah.
But Mike, our own producer, Mexican Iron Man, he refers to it as rabbit chicken, and he left the theater when rabbit chicken came into the story.
That's how bad Headless Snarf was.
Yeah,
although it's now known as rabbit chicken, but I still think that there's some charm to Headless Snarf, because if you take Snarf and you decapitate him, then rabbit chicken is what you get.
And you're not wrong, Andre. But I will say this, at least with rabbit chicken, it's something that's a little bit more original, and we can get away with doing stuff like this.
Yeah, that's
true. Do you like rabbit? Do you like chicken? Have you ever wondered what it would be like to have both at the same time, but can never find both at the same place? Well, Disney and Shang-Chi have taken care of that for you. That's right. You can get yourself rabbit chicken meat, now available at every Walmart and Costco. What you waiting for? Move your feet and get some rabbit chicken meat. It's good.
That was for Mike.
Yeah.
There are no words.
what do you think about that character design? 6 legs, 4 wings that I could count, and no
It's
head.
like it was made for eating.
I agree with Tom. It does. What are they thinking? I mean, I get that Groot and Rocket Raccoon, they thought that would never fly, but now they're literally trying to create headless flying beasties. I don't. Okay. Well, it's been fun, everybody. I'm gonna disengage from the human race now.
I know, right? Doesn't that just make you want to see Shang-Chi even more?
Yeah. Legend of the 10 Blunders. It just I don't even know anymore.
Well, I will say though that it's one of the better Fu Manchu movies I've seen. I mean, yeah, he looks a little bit different, but that's Fu Manchu right there.
Where did they get that thing? Chernobyl? That's probably about right. Oh, look, there we go. So thank you for that, Bamagrat. Yes. It looks like the chat's enjoying it quite a bit. Yeah, it was beef. I should have done chicken.
Culture, did you see Shang-Chi yet?
Of course, yeah.
You agree that totally was Fu Manchu, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think we talked about it, and of course, I did a review. I went and saw it on that Friday. I think we talked about it that following Monday, and I said it's not a good movie, it's not a bad movie, and and then I went about making this for you, Andre. So,
yeah, you did absolutely.
Did I?
But I think you made that after, and but anyway, yeah. So everyone agrees it's Fu Manchu.
What were you saying, Michael?
Am I crazy, or do I recall a few months ago a news point that was talking about the various reasons why the China film market wouldn't want to distribute it, and one of them had to do with the fact that they, I guess, in their film industry, the lead actor isn't considered attractive enough or something.
No, that's entirely correct.
Okay.
To use an ancient Chinese proverb, according to Chinese beauty standards, Simu Liu looked like he fell down from the tree of ugliness and hit every branch on the way down.
Wow! Like I don't. In all fairness, I don't think the actor is that.
No, it's not that he's like that ugly or anything. It's just according to Chinese standards, he's like, he looks like the regular guy that's at the fish market trying to sell.
I heard another translation of it, Andre. The other translation of it is they view what his features are what Americans view as attractive, not them. That's another reason why they're rejecting it, I guess. That was one potential version of it I heard.
Well, and right, I think wasn't it the same day that the film was going to release that Xi Ping came out with his statement about they didn't want to have any more effeminate.
Yes, that was the same day.
And I said that I think there's a connection between them, and I think that's kind of the interpretation is that they see him, and I hate to use the term, but as a more effeminate male.
Yeah,
and they're kind of hinting.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead, John.
No, I was just saying, and they're hinting that he is, America's version of men now, which is sissy boys.
That is fascinating to me because I'll be perfectly honest, that wasn't any even a concern. It didn't even make my radar when I saw the trailers for Shang-Chi. I wouldn't have even considered that. That's why I found that part of the whole Chinese film distribution of the film, or not distributing it, as the case may be. So, excuse me. Well, I'm joking. Interesting. I'm joking.
Quick, get in the Heimlich maneuver. Melinda, where are you?
I'm sorry, I was choking on.
I'm right here, but he's fine.
I was choking.
I didn't do it. I swear.
I was. Melinda made some excellent Scottish shortbread last night, and she gave me some just now, and I'd finished and I was giving my answer, and suddenly I was just choking on it, and sorry about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Melinda from Retroblast.
Sorry about that.
No, don't be sorry. We love to have you here. One of these days we got to have you on proper with Michael. And Mr. Tickle Trunk, you're not wrong. Every big film planned as a potential trilogy, if and only if it is meant to be. Like Dune makes sense because the material is there to work from, right? I don't think you should always go into every movie with the idea of it being a potential trilogy, though, right? Like as a general rule. And I think that's why John Wick is great and the sequels weren't as great, is because they didn't go into that movie planning on a part 2.
No, they did not. They just had so much fun making that first one. They're like, can we make another? And they came up with an idea that they thought would work and went with it.
Exactly. So yeah,
I think it's better now though than it was like a decade ago, in the aftermath of Casino Royale and Batman Begins, where like every studio said that we want a trilogy and it has to begin with an origin story, even if the source material doesn't lend itself to an origin story. I mean, this is the thing that screwed over both the Solomon Kane movie and the 2011 Conan the Barbarian reboot.
Yep.
That the financiers demanded for both of them that, no, we can't just go straight into the story. You have to conjure up some kind of origin story here. Then, in movie 2, you can do the story that you want to do in the first place. The one to buck that trend was actually Dredd, that just did like a day in the day off. And that way, if the movie was a hit, you do another day in the day off, a day in the life of.
Yeah.
And if it isn't,
kind of just
then
like
you have
Die
a
Hard.
brilliant standalone movie.
Yeah.
Just for instance, on the DVD releases of Solomon Kane now, it says right there on the cover, intended trilogy starter. And I hate it when they put that on the covers, because it kind of like ruins the longevity of the movie when you kind of know that this was like a sequel bait that never panned out.
Which also ruins the stakes of the film, where you're like, oh wait, so he lives at the end.
Yeah,
we should just make a movie, and the title of the movie is Intended Trilogy Starter.
There's a
that
video
way,
series for
that'll
you, Michael.
stop that phrasing.
My favorite there is actually you have a trilogy of that.
Oh yeah.
You have like the latest 3 Terminator movies. The 3 of them together make out the trilogy of intended trilogy starters. Because all 3 of them are reboots that ignore everything other than the first 2 movies, and they all aim to start their own trilogy, and they all failed miserably.
And in the grand tradition of Terminator movies, each one of those trilogy films, Andre, should be titled Terminator 3.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because every single Terminator film since 2 has been an attempt at a 3. They just keep erasing one another.
Yeah, it's true.
I was going to say, well, there's one caveat to that. The Terminator Salvation technically...
Yeah, that kind of was number 4.
But
But it's the opening salvo
exactly.
in the first in the trilogy of failed trilogy starters, because that was intended to kickstart the Salvation trilogy. That never happened.
But
we're all better off for
you can kind of scribble that asterisk because, and I don't know if Michael was going to point this out. I apologize if you were. You also had the Terminator series, which ignored part 3. So
that's right. Yeah. See, there's so many.
And that was better. I mean, honestly, that series is a shame that was canceled, because honestly, in my book,
it was better.
That's the best part 3 there ever was.
I mean, Melinda certainly agrees with you. She loved the TV show.
Yeah, it was a sad day when that got canceled.
I
would have thought Shirley Manson was such a good actress.
No shit, right?
I freely admit that my standards for Terminator 3 were, as a concept, were very low, And when I saw the actual Terminator 3 before there was Salvation or the TV show or whatever, I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger, ripping a urinal off the wall and hitting a robot with it. And I saw that same robot blow her breasts up in a convertible car. And I thought, win for me. This is all I really needed from this experience. Now I'm going to go have chips. And then afterwards,
I like the end of T3 as well, Michael. I don't know if you agree with that, but I like how it had a classic sci-fi ending.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love the ending where they didn't stop it and found themselves in the bunker. Yeah, that was great too. So I'm sort of saying that tongue in cheek, but also I didn't expect much from it, and I thought it was fine.
Don't get me wrong, it is a bad film.
Right,
it is a bad film, but that I give them props for at least having the balls at the end to be like, no, they didn't stop shit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to start writing my script for Intended Trilogy starter.
Trilogy. I can't wait to have some. Hopefully, I can help you with that. Just let me know if you need.
Oh, absolutely! It was created here, so we'll all just weigh in on it and start writing pages. It'll be great.
Well, you're good at what you do. Do check out Michael's Broken Vader trilogy, and you have your other the Follies and stuff like that.
The Star Wars Follies, about all the foibles of vintage Star Wars merchandising,
and all your other stuff too, besides just the straight, reporting. You do other stuff too that's really great too. So do check that out, guys, as well. I do love me some Armless Vader. You guys do have a great rapport. So I think you're right on that, Mr. Tickle Trunk, and we will coin the term now, potential trilogy. Eric Winberg says, woohoo, or wahoo, Midnight's Edge Monday. Hail. Well, hail to you, Eric Winberg, and thank you again for all your donations that you send, even when we're not on the air. So I appreciate that. STR Red Wolf says, rabbit chicken, what wine, what does what pair with? I guess it depends on if you're having legs or wings. If you're having legs, I would say red. If you're having wings, white. How's that? I don't know. Anybody want to chime in on that one? No.
All right. So I had this roommate my freshman year of college. For some reason, they put me in a dorm room as a freshman with a 21-year-old Marine, and he was always kicking me out of the room. He was sexiling me so that he could hit, his squeeze or whatever. And so I was always stuck somewhere in whatever. Anyway, this is sounding as pathetic as I thought it was going to be. But anyway, he would always have wings. He would always have wings in the room. So the wings were always that barbecue smell, that smell of wings and stuff. And I just kept associating it with him to the point that I don't eat wings. I'm just like, yeah. I think of wings and I think of him. So there's my trauma for this episode of Midnight's Edge. There you go.
Yeah.
I've killed the room. I've totally.
No, you haven't. No. No worry about that.
Everyone's just like, wow, Michael's got some issues. They're all just quiet. This is all.
We all got issues here. So
no, but Naked Fame pipes in on the whole legs and wings thing. Says proof that people like legs more than wings. Maybe. I figured I used the steak bit because I was figuring that was the big chunky parts. But I should have just did legs and wings. You're right. It would have looked much better. We got Mega Jetty 1 who says, got several ideas for Terminator 3, but Hollywood don't want to use them. I'll use them for my Terminator in my Blue Shogun series if I can finish the story one. Yeah, and I know what Jeff's talking about here. He's talking about, I've told him and others have told him, don't worry or expect Hollywood to pay attention to anything we do. Just do your own thing. You got a good idea for something, make it your own thing. Turn it into its own property. I believe that's what the friends of Robert Meyer Burnett did with that one sci-fi series when they were going to make a fan film. I think he gave them that idea, and they're just working on it now, I believe, or they just finished it. One of the two. I can't remember what it was, but the title of it offhand, I'm apologizing and blanking on it, but I don't know if Script knows what I'm talking about. But
I want to give some clarification to the chat just real fast. This guy sounded like Butthead from Beavis and Butthead when he would talk. And this was an exact quote when I walked into the room one day, my freshman year of college. Did you ever notice that wings, they smell like sex? And I looked over and I'm like, Bob, fuck off.
Now you say that.
No, I'm done.
I was going to say, now I can picture him going, I'm going to get lucky.
Yeah. Like, so yeah, I there's a reason where I'm just like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with wings. So, yeah.
I wonder what kind of chicken wings you guys have in the States. I just have to say.
Oh, we've got all kinds of different wings. Which voice am I supposed to do besides Butthead? I did just do Butthead, and if that's what you meant, because there's a delay. Maybe that's what he meant. Hey, Babeth, get out of here. Yeah. No, he said wings smell like sex. Sex, not six. Sex.
What? Was there barbecue sauce involved with this guy's?
Wings, they help me with my math. Like what? No, sex, not six.
Yes. The sexy voice, which I don't know what the sexy voice is. Okay. Anyway, moving on. We got another super chat from Mr. Tickle Trunk who said, I associate ranch Doritos with my concussion. Makes me full on sick to my stomach. I feel you there. Buy wings with sweet sauce. So good. Okay. Yeah, you get sick from the smell. I get what you're saying. I had that problem. I had gotten the flu once after eating pork rinds. I cannot. Even the thought of them now makes me sick. Ugh. All right. We do have some classic super chats that we didn't get a chance to bring up on screen. So I'm going to try and make sure we got them all now. Let's see here. Eric Rung, how do I say that, Andre?
Erik Runge Madsen.
Okay, I was close. People want to leave the planet for a few hours. Exactly. That's why I think Dune is going to do well. They're sick and tired of, the modern world intervening into their movies, and that's why I think even though it's not like a huge great film or however you want to put it, like it's not even probably one of Clint Eastwood's best films, but I thought Cry Macho was a great movie. Why? Because I just didn't feel like it was weighed down by all this modern bullshit. Just felt like a typical Clint Eastwood movie. Nothing to write home about, but it was a fun way to spend 2 hours, and I didn't feel like I was being preached to or anything like that. I don't know if anybody else has any feelings on that matter, but yeah, I think that's what a lot of us are just asking for, is just some entertainment in our entertainment. Okay. Mr. Tickle Trunk says, I'm scared that a third Dune movie will put a lot of normal general audience off. The story might seem like more current year film. I don't know if Andre has any response to that.
Depends entirely on the execution.
Yeah.
I think it depends on how invested the audience is and the execution. But let's not pretend that as soon as something is perceived as woke, it's like an instant flop, because that's not necessarily the case. And also in the case of Dune, there are so many hardcore fans that can assure that, yeah, this is exactly how it's supposed to be. So I'd be more worried about them making deviations in part 2, to be honest.
Yeah. Or, yeah, because of the response from certain woke parties to force them to up the woke factor in part 2.
Exactly. Like, for instance, I'm just worried that some are going to be like, but why does that white guy get to be like the chosen one? It should be her. It should be Cheney. She should be like the chosen one. I'm worried that there's going to be like some people calling for that, maybe even in the studio, because under current management, I don't know about Legendary, but Warner certainly are that inept. Hasbro can't come soon enough.
At the risk of sounding like a shill, I don't think anybody will disagree with me when I say this, though. The only way that we can guarantee this story is going to stay the way it's supposed to is by people going and seeing it, making a huge hit, so that Denny can say, fuck you to anybody who wants to change it, and they have to listen to him.
Pretty much, yeah. The bigger hit this is, the more power he will get for the sequels. If he's even involved them, because I do not think that HBO Max is going to give him the kind of budget to film on the same scale as this one. I think they're going to say that, yeah, we're gonna fund more, but on TV budget, make do.
I think if this movie makes at least 500, he'll get what he wants, because I think they'll take into consideration that this would have been $1 billion movie had the world been open, right? Like, so I think they'll take that into consideration, because by the time the sequel comes out, hopefully things will be back to normal. But that's
well, we can hope.
Exactly. So I think that's the only chance the movie has. So unless script or Michael or Culture has anything else to add to that, I think that's about where that stands.
I just simply hope for the best. I really want this film to do well. So,
yeah, I'm of the mind that if you watch it and you like it, let your friends and family know, and hopefully they go and see it and have their own opinions, and it maybe just escalates that way. Because, I mean, if you don't like it, obviously let us know. Because again, that's how people
I don't even
learn.
know if I'm gonna like it. I want to make sure that everyone's clear on that. I haven't pre-loved the movie or anything like that. Like, I'm not one of those people. I want to love it as much as I think the potential is there for me to enjoy it. So as a Lawrence of Arabia / Blade Runner fan, I have high hopes.
And you're probably like me, going off of, what Andre has said about it. Mm-hmm. He's, we trust his opinion on it as far as that goes. I avoided reading the script at this point. I got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna.
No, don't. Read it afterwards. See the movie first, and then you can compare. It would be more
that way,
interesting.
when we have that discussion, I can come from that point of view, because I know Script has read it. I know you have read it, Andre. So then I haven't read it. So then I can come.
And we have our good friend Robert Burnett,
and
who's also
whoever
read
else
it.
wants to join us, and whatever happens there, that might be a very big review. I have a feeling.
I think we'll have to divide it into several parts.
May have to. Okay, so we got a couple more here to catch up on before the newer ones that just came in. Patrick Mulligan sends in $5 from Canada. Thank you so much, sir. Says, all Star Wars without Gary Kurtz and Marcia Lucas has been trash. Return of the Jedi being the only exception, with about half of it being garbage. I know there's some people who will agree with you and some people who disagree with you, Patrick, but that's a case to be made.
Well, there's a good case for that, because unlike Empire and Star Wars, Return of the Jedi is bless you, sir.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Return of the Jedi is primarily focused on Luke and Vader, whereas you don't really get much development happening between Leia and Han, or between Han and Luke, or between Leia and Luke, except for that one scene on the bridge. Like, it's very thin for all the other characters, but very deep for Luke and Vader.
Yeah, and George even said that in an interview. I believe it's on From Star Wars to Jedi. Basically, Luke and Leia were not brother and sister until way into the writing process of Return of the Jedi.
Yep, that's true.
Because he said Vader had Luke pinned underneath the stairs in that one scene, and he couldn't think of a reason to get Luke to come out.
Yep.
Well, not only that, he gave up on making another Star Wars film after Jedi, because, again, his divorce hit him really hard. He just got his first kid adopted. He was responsible for all these employees. Like, he turned into the thing he didn't want to be, which is like a corporate guy. And he just didn't want to go on with it anymore at that point. He just wanted to, kind of take a back seat, do some, ghost productions on things of that nature, and experiment. And that's kind of what he did until he did like Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, and then Jurassic Park did so well, and that gave him the idea to sort of maybe try Star Wars again. And there's I didn't know he was a YouTuber for the longest time, because I just knew him by his website, but apparently he has a YouTube channel, and he does this great chronicling of the origin of Lucasfilm all the way up to the sale of Lucasfilm to Disney, and it's SF debris. And a lot of the stories that he manages to gather are stuff that I started hearing as soon as I entered the industry back in like 2005, 2006. So he's done the research, and it's a great chronicling. And it's like, I think it's almost an 11-hour total documentary and across several videos. So seek that out. It's really amazing stuff.
All right. And then moving on, we got that one. Oh, no, we didn't get this one. Roof Korean the Base says, to clarify my super chat, I recall Rinsler was on a podcast stating he had a warts and all behind the scenes view, but Disney was suppressing it. I would have burned the barn down after releasing the horses. Maybe there's something to this, but without any real clarification on, or not clarification, but more so proof that this was something that was kind of pushed quickly and out like this after the fact. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if anybody has any comments on that, but I'd have to see the interview to kind of see the context as well.
Yeah, I also would have to read the book, but I do think it was like a very long time from when these comments were made till the release of the book. But Yeah, who knows? There can be many reasons for that, but Disney suppressing or at least delaying until they had squeezed every single cent there was to squeeze out of the rise of Palpatine. Probably.
STR Red Wolf says, or no way, I jumped over Mr. Tickle Trunks. I'm sorry. Releasing Dune slowly like this is genius. Denny is making sure Dune is spoken about for months. I don't think excitement will pass. I hope you're right, Mr. Tickle
I hope
Trunks,
you're right too.
But we live in a world where things move so fucking fast now that
24-hour news cycle, isn't it?
Exactly. In a couple of days, we're going to be talking about something else, and that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, I mean, soon the new Batman trailer is going to drop, so we're going to be talking about that before.
Well, there's already been a couple of those we missed. Plus, there is a big one coming. Yes, that they've been teasing for a couple of weeks. Well, we've gotten little trailers teasing the bigger trailer coming. I should say.
That's so fun when that happens.
Yeah, trailers for the trailer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's due here in a couple of weeks, I believe, as well. So we'll see. I hope so, though. I really do. And then STR Red Wolf on to certain areas, perhaps. And then the other thing would definitely be to try and stave off any kind of piracy, which isn't working out too well for them. There's already some cam leaks online.
Yeah, but that's inevitable. But what language is it on?
As far as I know, there's an English one out there. I don't know for a fact. I have not seen it myself, but I've been told by a few people that there is.
It's not worth it.
Exactly.
I mean, this is one you want to see on IMAX or very
and that's what I'm
definition.
hoping most people will do is just avoid that.
I don't think that piracy to cams is going to be that big an issue. Honestly, I mean, the thing with piracy is when you have like the 4K version out there,
right.
The moment it's out, then obviously that's an issue.
I believe it's in the top 10 or 20, but it's not in the top 5. So that's a good thing for them. It's not being overly passed around yet. And I think the reason for that is what you just said, Andre, is a lot of people are just hesitant. They want to wait to see it in a better version.
I mean, people get standards. I mean, and when even like the pirates that used to be satisfied with cams, now they're gotten used to like 4K versions. Fine, they don't necessarily see them on like a big home theater, but even if they just see them on like a 4K gaming screen, it's gonna be difficult to go back from that to a cam again.
Yeah, and I just think Dune is just one of those movies. So hopefully. Corsair Raven says, "I don't forget about Dune RTS. What's RTS?" Andre,
real-time strategy.
Okay, real-time strategy. I thought it was a game.
Thank you, because I had no clue.
I'm assuming that's what it is.
Probably.
Yeah, they've got a lot of
real-time strategy.
A lot of Dune games, and it's a big franchise as well. So I think that's what the point they're trying to make. So, like, yeah, it does have a fan base, and I feel like that needs to be taken into consideration. And with that, I know there was a couple of super chats that we missed in between there that I cannot bring up on screen. So you're gonna.
I'll find them for you here, so you can.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, I know there's a couple we can. Stephen Otten says, "Entertainment in our entertainment." Tom, that's crazy talk. I know, right? We need some more entertainment in our entertainment. That's just nuts, though, to ask. Mad Leprechaun says, what we need is a movie adaptation of Frank Miller's RoboCop versus the Terminator and Judge Dredd versus Alien.
Yes, certainly the first one. Judge Dredd versus Aliens is good. That's actually really good. But Frank Miller's RoboCop versus Terminator, like, that's a real Terminator 3 right there. And RoboCop 3, all in one go.
I have my
For those that haven't read it, it's really freaking good. It's some of Frank Miller's best work.
I have to reread it again, because last I remember it was not as good as his RoboCop 2 and 3. And there were some things that
personally, I think it's better than that. And you know what? You know what's the best thing about it? It's on the Sega Mega Drive, and it's glorious.
I just, for some reason, there's just bits and pieces of it I remember not liking or thinking that lined up well. But I'd have to reread it. It's been years, and I'm talking decades, actually, since I've read it. So...
And RoboCop, that's like one of the best Sega Mega Drive games.
I'm not dissing the game at all.
Yeah,
I love the game, but I just remember the comic book not sitting as well with me because for some reason, there was I can't remember offhand, but there were some things in it that just bothered me. But I'd have to reread it.
And Judge Dredd versus Aliens is also really, really good. And the beauty
I
with
didn't even know
it,
there was that.
Oh yeah, there is, and it's fully part of Judge Dredd canon. So that's the best thing about it. It's not like some like out of continuity adventure. No, that's in canon.
There you go.
I'll hook you up with it if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely check out RoboCop versus Terminator. I'll check out again too if I can find the time. But yeah, I can definitely recommend his versions of RoboCop 2 and 3 though, which are collected in a decent graphic novel form. So yeah, but that's the thing. A lot of those things, unless they're under the same umbrella, you got to worry about rights issues too. But I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, I was more surprised. I mean, Godzilla versus Kong might help bring it back a little bit, but I was surprised after Freddy versus Jason we didn't get a bunch more, and Alien versus Predator a bunch of more.
Me too, because that one did really good, and especially like AVP, because that say what you want about the movie, but it was financially successful.
Exactly.
The first one.
Same thing with Freddy versus Jason. That movie alone, it was the highest grossing at that time of both franchises. So I mean, there was definitely a want to see characters battle, but I can't believe more companies didn't get together and see the potential in that. So maybe they will at some point. What do you think, Michael?
About the
doing why the versus thing never took off, or do you think there's a
it's that whole mashup thing. To me the mashup discussions, they started at comic conventions and sci-fi conventions amongst geeks and things like that, and they're fun things to discuss, but they don't have a good track record delivering on that excitement.
You're not wrong.
What's that?
I said you're not wrong on that point.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, people are like, oh my god, wouldn't it be great if He-Man and Thundercats got together, and then they finally do a comic and it's like, this is terrible. Like that, this is a waste of time. And I think all that goes back to Superman versus Spider-Man, where it was a big thing for those two characters to cross over in the comic, and it
sucked though.
What's that?
It sucked though.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was driving at, Andre. It was good. And so, and I don't think many of these have been. Now, the video games, like Andre said, can be fun. I remember playing RoboCop versus Terminator, and it was a lot of fun as a game. But a game is more like a conversation. It's kind of a novelty. But Aliens versus Predator, like, really? Like, the arcade game was great because it was
if only they had stuck to the. Have you read the comic Alien versus Predator?
Yeah, the comic again.
The comic is fantastic, and then they completely messed up the movie because Tom Rothman thought himself better. Him and his colleague, like Young something, and the two of them, they messed it up completely.
Yeah,
because it was their goal to destroy it. I mean, had they just done a straight up adaptation of the comic, would have been amazing.
And that's the problem, is that it's such a spotty track record with these versus mashups that I just don't ever gravitate towards them. It's like Ghostbusters meets Scooby-Doo, and it's like, I don't care. Like, I don't go, leave me alone.
One that did work recently, I don't know if you saw this one or not, but I did enjoy it for the most part, was the Batman meets TMNT. That one was decent enough, but they made it work, and Shredder fighting Batman was pretty bitchin'.
Yeah, like I said, some of them get through.
But it was an animated cartoon too, right? So
right. I mean, but again, that's a rare outcome. Most of them are bad. So, yeah.
And I still argue Freddy versus Jason could still work. I mean, I don't hate the one we got, but it could have been better. And there's a lot of potential, especially in the horror movie genre. Like, we love, like, it's like a legacy, right? Like Wolfman versus Frankenstein and Dracula versus Wolfman. Like, it's kind of a legacy. And I thought Godzilla versus Kong might have been something to bring that back, but with the current world we're in right now, I just don't know.
But you ever notice that those aren't ever the ones we talk about and remember? Like, we talk about Dracula, we talk about Wolfman, we talk about
to a point, but Godzilla versus Kong is one of the exceptions.
Yeah, that is probably the only exception I can really think of on a movie level.
That's true.
So,
Mad Leprechaun says, anyone see the trailer for the Wolverine game? I haven't seen it yet, but I have heard that it's getting a lot of buzz. Did any of you guys catch it yet?
I haven't seen it.
It's not on the Sega Mega Drive, so I know Andre hasn't.
It's on a PS5. None of us will be able to play it. So
exactly.
Wait, I have a PS5. I have a PS5.
He's the only one that I know.
I think it's great that that human trafficking thing has worked out for you to get that kind of money to bring in what you need to buy that PS5. I think that's wonderful.
But for the rest of us, a PS5 is a figment of Culture Casino's imagination.
Look, so I'll go get it. You don't make me go get it. But I'll say this: your local Targets are going to start stocking them.
Tell me, are white
Thursday
kids worth as
Friday.
much as they used to be? I mean,
oh my goodness, you guys! Holy cow! No,
Targets are starting to stock them Friday finally.
Thursday and Friday. Yeah, Thursday and Friday.
Really?
Yep.
Andre, I need Thursday off.
Well, we have a live show on Friday, so as long as you're back for that.
All right, cool. Just don't send me nothing. I'll be at Target.
No promises.
But my kids actually got one, to be honest with you, and he spent way too much, and I could have kicked his ass for it. But
really, because I got mine, right at Christmas. It was a gift.
I told him to wait.
Yeah.
Speaking of the devil, he just fucking messaged me. I don't even want to look. Anyway, did we get that super chat, Andre? Or did
Warwolf says RoboCop versus Terminator versus Predator? It exists. Yeah, it does, but it sucks.
What was the one before that? Did we get that one though?
The one that was on screen. Yeah, that was the Wolverine trailer.
Okay, Zachary in the chat. Just let me reassure you, that was a sarcastic joke.
Yes,
there was no. Kidding. I am a very dry, humored, irreverent person. I was not making any. Never, you know what I mean, or I hope.
This is why Mike and I get along. In fact, Mike would probably fit in better on Mead shows than he probably thinks he would.
Mel's Flair also has a PS5, so there's two.
My kid bought it from somebody for like $700. I think they're asking what. Yeah.
Oof.
No, that sounds like a pretty good deal. Given
it does to a point, but I was like, Jeffrey, if you just waited a few months.
Just wait until it's no longer new and modern. Just wait until technology has outdated it.
And
just wait until
what are you going to play on the damn thing? There's what?
Then you can get it.
How many?
Just wait until Sony makes a new inferior model of the hardware. That's probably why you're getting it now, because it's like a new version, isn't it?
I don't actually know if the new ones that are actually showing up in the supply chain. I don't know anything about them if they're any different in any way, but I do, like I said, I do know that you can play PS4 games like your old library, anything that you got through the PlayStation Plus store, any of that stuff. Almost all the PS4 games I have play on it, plus the PS5 games that I have, which I also bought Cyberpunk 2077 to play on that, and I still didn't have the trouble that everybody else did. So no, it's great.
Can it play PlayStation 1 games?
No,
I thought it was supposed to be.
Can it play PlayStation 2 games?
Okay, so they have this weird thing called PS Now. It's like a way to get a game and play it online.
Okay, no, I have the disc. Can I put the disc into it?
No, I don't think so. No, like I said, PS4 games you can go in there. Well, hey, that was the cool thing about the first generation of the PS3, right? Because it had, if you got the nicest
as far
version
as I know, all the PS3 played PS1. It was just the first.
Yeah, all of them that played it. I discovered that to my surprise, because I spent like years thinking that it was just, as you say, Culture, the very, very first model of the PlayStation 3. I mean, that was the one that played PlayStation 1 natively. It emulated PlayStation 2, and obviously it played PlayStation 3.
Right.
But that was just that one model. They removed all of that along with 2 USB ports for all the later releases.
Yep.
And I thought that they removed the PlayStation 1 playback as well. But then I discovered, purely by chance, that no, they kept that. Every single PlayStation 3 model natively played PlayStation 1.
That is good to know, because I did not know that. Yeah, because
neither did I until I discovered by chance.
I had to refloat the solder on my Fat Boy like 4 times. So because you know how they overheat and then the solder comes off the pins. I had to refloat.
That was the problem with that very first model. It was technically in terms of like playback capabilities and what you can use it with, it was superior. But you better keep it inside of a fridge while you're using it, because otherwise it's not going to last very long.
Yeah,
I just think it's great that some of these systems actually, natively attempt to support those retina hemorrhaging polygons of PS1 programming. Like, I can't even look at those games without a migraine breaking out at this point, because it's so hard to do those early 3D games. It's like, how did we even do this back then? Like, God, Super Nintendo holds up better.
It was miles ahead of Michael. This was miles ahead of the stuff we were playing in the arcades when we were playing Asteroids.
Oh yeah, sure, but I didn't want to play Tekken in the arcades either, whichever one it was. Everybody looked like a random amalgamation of triangles.
I'm with Michael on this one.
Yeah, I agree. I never was into virtual.
That generation has not aged well. Yeah, that generation has not aged well at all.
Oof. I mean, it's more fun to play Marvel versus Capcom that was contemporary with those games than those games, because at least it was still like raster-based graphics and stuff.
Right.
Oof, God.
Wow.
The animation was really good in those.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a term you won't hear very often, kids, the word raster-based animation. Nobody in the audience knows what that means.
You know what? That is the story of my life. I'm good with that. It's fine. So
that's why Michael's here. We love
and HyperGyver 2 says the Supernatural Scooby-Doo crossover was great.
Well, I'll tell you what.
But the Batman Scooby-Doo one, that was really cool back in the day. And also, smash that like, everyone. Get us to 1,000.
There is one crossover that I always used to push before the 2016 Ghostbusters came out that I thought made fucking sense. And I don't know if anybody still agrees with me or not. But it really kind of was ironic, because when you read Paul Feig's treatment, it sounded more like he wanted to make a Men in Black movie anyway. So I said, why wasn't the logical choice made? And why didn't they do Ghostbusters in black? Like that, they're aliens have ghosts too,
Yeah,
that's true. Those do seem like since it's both owned by Sony, that seems like a natural mashup.
And I made that logo back in the day too for it.
I'd love to have I'd love to have a Teen Wolf Buffy the Vampire Slayer crossover. I think that'd be amazing.
Help me win the basketball game, and I'll help you with these vampires.
That's right. Yeah, something like that.
And the Mad Leprechauns is for $10. For those who didn't know, there was a comic sequel to Freddy vs. Jason called Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, and a sequel to that called Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, the Nightmare Warriors. Yes,
and the first one was based on the proposed script for the film that was going to happen, and it was very close to happening until Sam Raimi decided not to let him use Ash.
Yeah, he wants to have a hit if it wanted to have a hiss of it. So yeah, that's really sucks.
He's within his rights. Yeah.
And I totally now agree with Culture's thing. I did not agree with it, but now that he said the thing about Teen Wolf and Buffy, I would love to see a scene where he asks why Seth Green's werewolf is so ugly in transformation compared to his own.
So good.
All right, there we go.
See, but I wonder, are we thinking of the TV series? Are we thinking of Michael J. Fox's Teen Wolf meeting up with?
Oh no, I think you go to the films. I don't think you go to the TV series.
Well, yeah, so you can bring back Ben Affleck as one of the basketball players that has to go against Michael J. Fox and one of the vampire guys.
Yeah,
Christy Swanson.
Yeah, I think it'd be good.
Paul Rubens, still dying.
Still dying.
Still dying with the
He's got that steak in him, and it's just like
I love when he stamps his foot. He's like, oh my god, that's
he's amazing in that. Adam Wilford says the Xbox X Series can play all of the Xbox games. Well, that's
good for Xbox owners.
It is.
Or
indeed.
if you have a PC, you can play Xbox games on your PC.
Can you? There you go. Mad Leprechaun, we got that one already. So let's go back to some classics that we cannot bring up on
screen. While you look those up, I'm going to say again, everyone, smash that like if you haven't done so already.
You're going to have to bring them up,
likes because the algorithm really likes that.
You're going to have to bring them up, Andre, because I think those are ones that were in between there, unless we didn't miss any.
Okay, and just give me 1 second here, and I'll send you everything that's come since the last batch.
And while we're waiting for that, Michael, do you have any videos or anything coming up that you want to plug right now that you've been working on?
I'm actually working on a big Star Wars Follies called Product May Vary, which is going to go into all of the vintage Kenner action figure variations that are visible, not all the subtleties that obsessive weird people get all attached to, but like the ones you can see from 3 feet away, of which there are many. And then I'm working on this big feature review of this Playmobil Enterprise from Star Trek, because it's taking up a lot of space in my studio right now. And then I'm going to start a Cobra Terrordrome restoration from G.I. Joe and get that place set built back up to spec. So there's a lot going on. And I might be doing a Fright Zone review with Skeletor at some point. So there's a lot on the back burner. Yep.
What?
He-Man. Yeah.
I've been doing my own Skeletor cartoons. I don't know if you saw those, but
yeah, I've seen a few of them. Yeah.
He-Man. Why just call yourself guy?
I've got this idea that he's going to review the Fright Zone because Hordak put it up on Airbnb, and he rented it for the holiday, and then he got there and he was like, "This place sucks." Like,
disappointed.
It's a patch of mud with nothing in it. Like it's it's
the room service sucks.
It's gonna be a good time. And then I have this idea for a sequel right after that, like a follow-up where he gets like he wants to leave because it's such a bad Airbnb. And so he looks on the listings, and the listings have this thing. It says Castle Grayskull, newly renovated, sorceress ready to, rent at a moment's notice or whatever. And he's like, what? And so then he goes and sees the new Origins Castle Grayskull, and he's like, wow, like it looks like Pottery Barn took it over. Like, so it's going to be, I got a few ideas.
Would
Say
he
what?
Disguise himself to try and get the room though, so nobody. He does
I haven't quite figured that part out yet.
I'm not Skeletor. I'm a little old lady who's looking for a room.
I'm Steve McGillicuddy from over yonder.
They call me Stevie.
I'm into wheat and nature hikes. Yeah, like, oh man.
Would you like some granola? I made it myself.
That would be good.
So yeah, I've got some dumb ideas. I'm trying to keep it lighthearted and just have some fun. So
and actually, I think we caught everything.
I think so too.
If you think we missed your super chat though, don't hesitate to let us know. We'll try and make sure that no super chat gets left behind here at Midnight's Edge. And other than that, Culture, you got anything coming up?
No, not really. I mean, I had a video that I was putting together and some of the numbers have changed, so I'm not really going to be releasing that video today. So I imagine this Wednesday I'll get a video out, but now I'm just going to do the 6-minute daily every weekday, which is a lot of fun. And then of course you and I do the Tuesday Tirade show tomorrow. So, and then I, whatever people invite me to, I do about 25 live shows a week. I mean,
at least.
It's a lot of fun. I get to hang out with other people. That's when I'm not working, I'm working. So I'm very excited.
You're not working, you're working. That sounds like me.
That's right.
Film Lars.
Yes, I'm looking behind the scenes.
Actually, accidentally bump over that one. You are correct, sir, and I am so sorry for that. Sent in 200 Danish krona saying, "Hail Marcia Lucas, put her in charge."
Yeah, we could actually be better off if she was.
I can't believe we accidentally bumped over that one. I am so sorry. I missed that. That was my fault.
Tack, i alla fall.
And thank you so much for that.
And but there was two, so I'm looking for.
Yeah, there is another one. S Sharp, who said, "What would the book quote have released if?" Oh no, we got that one. Okay, what was the other one we missed?
I'm looking. But did he say that there was two that he had?
No, from 2 hours ago.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, well, I think that's the only one we missed. But if anybody thinks we did miss another one, let us know. I will double check, and so will Andre. But other than that, Script, do you have anything going on?
I might be joining a live stream tomorrow. I have to hear back from the person, so just follow me on Twitter and I'll tweet it out.
All right.
Yeah.
There you go. And with that, I will say that you can check out the Retro Blasting link in the description. It should be there. I tried.
It is there, and so is the links for both Cultured Casino and I haven't put Script Doctor yet, but I will.
All right.
But also for Sporking News Podcast.
Yes, and congratulations, Scott.
Yeah, I'm so happy for Scott. I mean, he did try to get himself fixed before he produced the new child, but
hey, at least he got a boy child out of it.
Good.
And may his boy child be a massive.
And Mecha J says we missed his super chat too.
We missed one. Okay.
Okay. Well, I shall go and find the super chat for Mecha J.
I'll double check at the same time.
Yeah.
Mecha J.
You should have it in your papers there.
That's what I'm trying to. Yeah. I'm not seeing a Mecha J. I see. Not seeing. Oh, here's one.
Yeah, you got it.
Oh, yeah, we did miss this one. I'm so sorry. Mecha J says Marcia says she likes KK, but looking at how she rips into her, she doesn't like her much anymore. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Did you get Meredith just above that?
Yes. See, I don't know how. Yeah, I just accidentally missed the one in between there. Sorry about that. I just must have. We must have got talking, and when I come
you criminal,
I missed it. I'm sorry,
but again, that's why we ask
make sure
we leave no super chat behind.
That's right. Sorry about that, and we got it now. And with that, though, I think we are caught up. And as Six says, please smash that like button. We're almost there. Almost there. I think she means. I think we're close to 1K. And yes, Sadie wants to go outside. So I think that means it's time for some wet marsupials. What do you guys think?
Yep.
Sadie agrees.
Soak them, baby.
Yeah.
Koalas in the rain. Koalas in the rain. No fucks given. Koala. Koalas in the rain. Koalas in the rain. No fucks given.